Chapter 895. The reason why Yi Qinghan was willing to try was also because of his own selfishness. He wanted to reverse thousands of years of history and save Xiaoxian. That had always been a pain in his heart. This was only an experiment. Miss Xiaoxian had a wish, but his wish was even more grand. The old village chief looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. All the villagers also gathered around, wanting to see what the miracle was like. Miracles weren't something that anyone could witness, and only Yi Qinghan understood that only the god of time could reverse time. Reversing 10 years was a piece of cake for the god of time. Changing the trajectory of a mortal's life was a simple task for the god of time. Coupled with the spear of time, the success rate was very high, but that didn't mean that it was impossible to fail. But let me warn you first. Once you fail, you will die. It might also make your soul degenerate to the age of a 3-year-old. You will be like a 3-year-old child forever until you grow old. Are you still willing to try? Yi Qinghan asked in a deep voice. I am willing to try, Xiaoxian said firmly. Yi Qinghan looked at the old village chief. Seeing that he didn't object, he used the profound mystery of time. The spear of time shot out a golden ray. Time domain, time reversal, Yi Qinghan shouted in a deep voice. His soul was highly concentrated. He was very careful. The slightest mistake would cause Xiaoxian to die. Hua! A ray of divine light bathed Xiaoxian. She could completely feel time reversing. Her life trajectory was constantly changing and twisting. Time and space were changing. Remember, don't ever change the trajectory of others. Don't reveal half a word about what happened today. When you change the fate of your family, I will speed up your time and return to the present. At that time, time and space will change. There will only be 3 more people on the ship. It won't affect the Great Tao. If you affect the trajectory of the entire world, your family will eventually perish. Yi Qinghan reminded in a deep voice. Xiaoxian could only hear Yi Qinghan's words, but she couldn't reply. She allowed her memories to reverse. But her heart carried the will. She went back to save her life. She couldn't change the trajectory of others. Everyone looked at the miracle in disbelief. Time reversal. They couldn't help but be shocked. This was a true miracle. Although it couldn't bring the dead back to life, it could change the trajectory of life. At this moment, everyone was silent, waiting for a miracle to happen. Little Xian's body was still here, but her soul had returned to 10 years ago, back to the barbarian bull village. 10 years ago, a 5-year-old boy was approaching the barbarian bull sculpture. Little Xian was only 6 years old, but she was very sensible. She directly stopped the little guy and gently taught him. She even followed him closely, and a tragedy could actually be reversed. Little Xian's family was too ordinary. It was easy to change the trajectory of 10 years, but if it was an expert or 1,000 years, Yi Qinghan's current strength could not change it at all. He did not even dare to dream about it. Yi Qinghan saw all of this from across time and space. He began to accelerate the flow of time, allowing them to return to 10 years later. When they reached this point of convergence, time and space alternated. In an instant, everything stopped. The group of people stared in disbelief at little Xian, who was actually holding on to her long-dead brother and her parents. God! This was a true God. It can really bring the dead back to life and reverse time. Greetings, God! Tens of thousands of people knelt down. Wang Jun was so excited that he almost could not control himself. He never thought that the one he left behind was actually a true God. Yi Qinghan had changed the trajectory of his family. The sky was covered in dark clouds and lightning interweaved. It was as if doomsday had arrived. Heavy rain poured down, and the dark clouds formed a vortex that pressed down on the forest not far away. Heavenly retribution. Yi Qinghan knew from the very beginning that doing such a thing was against the will of the heavens. Fortunately, this family was very ordinary. If he had really reversed Owl War Star, then the heavenly retribution would be truly terrifying. Owl War Star would be destroyed once again, and even Yi Qinghan himself would not be able to escape. Swoosh! Yi Qinghan soared into the sky. He did not look at the pious crowd, and instead charged into the lightning. He absorbed the power of lightning and used the true power of lightning to condense his own divine lightning spark. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Hundreds of lightning bolts struck down every second. They were densely packed and directly submerged Yi Qinghan. Xiao Xian's family, other than Xiao Xian, was at a loss. Why were so many people looking at them with such strange gazes? Why aren't you all thanking him? This is the first time a god has shown his might. The old village chief said excitedly. That god. Xiao Xian's parents were very simple hunters and villagers. At this moment they were at a loss. This god was very powerful, but why should they thank him? Their memories were still the original memories, and they did not know that they had died once. The old village chief quickly explained the ins and outs of this matter. The family looked at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. They did not expect that their family was actually pulled back from the gates of hell by Yi Qinghan. Moreover, he had suffered heavenly retribution because of them. They immediately knelt down and prayed sincerely. The power of faith flowed continuously into Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. Their faith seemed to be purer and more powerful. They were the true survivors of primal chaos, and their souls were not the same as those of the outside world. Yi Qinghan only wanted to experiment. His true goal was not to save this family, but to save Xiao Xian's family. Now that he had succeeded, he was even more excited than Xiao Xian's family. He might not be able to save Xiao Xian now, but when his cultivation reached a super first-rate realm and he became a supreme saint, wouldn't he be able to reverse 10,000 years and save Xiao Xian? However, there was a slight deviation from the true path. If Yi Qinghan really changed Xiao Xian's fate, his own fate would be changed as well. If this cycle continued, the chances of success would be close to zero, and he would even fall into the trap. Boom! A spear pierced through the tribulation cloud. This kind of small-scale heavenly retribution could not harm Yi Qinghan, but it was devoured and refined by him. In the end, the remnant was pierced through by his spear and completely destroyed. After absorbing the lightning power of the heavenly retribution, his thunder god personality became much stronger. His overall power increased. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was completely oblivious to the fact that his careless actions had caused a slight deviation in the 6 paths of reincarnation. One must know that a slight difference in the Grand Tao could lead to a huge deviation, causing many things to deviate from their trajectories. It was just that they had yet to show themselves. When he returned to the ship, it was already the next day. Yi Qinghan accepted Xiao Xian's family's gratitude, and he ordered the xenogenic bird to continue its journey. After 5 days and 5 nights of traveling, Yi Qinghan finally saw a majestic ancient city in front of him. It was majestic and imposing. As soon as Yi Qinghan arrived, he unleashed his aura. His spear pointed to the heavens, his aura devouring mountains and rivers. He looked down upon the city and its inhabitants, and it quickly alerted the city's sovereign. The city lord of this main city was a middle-aged man dressed in embroidered robes. Since he was known as a god, his cultivation level was naturally at the level of a main god. This region did not seem to be affected by the primal chaos unification. Its fortune was still as dense as ever, and the cultivation levels of its experts rarely dropped. Chapter 896. When the Master Gods met, they had a common topic. However, as soon as this Master God appeared, all living beings knelt before him and called him the Giant God. This was completely different from how it was addressed in the outside world. This confused Yi Qinghan. Could this district be an inheritance from the primal chaos universe? Who are you? Why are you in the primitive saint realm? You are even emitting the aura of a giant god. Are you here to challenge me? The Master God asked. You misunderstand. I am Yi Qinghan from the outer domain. I am not from the primitive saint realm. I came here by chance after the primal universe merged. Yi Qinghan quickly cupped his fists and sized this person up. He realized that his strength was comparable to Master God Ling Tian. His combat power was definitely not weak. As a main god, the middle-aged main god naturally knew that chaos had returned to one. He also understood that the primitive sacred realm was no longer an independent plane. It was normal for outsiders to appear, but he did not understand why Yi Qinghan had gathered so many normal citizens on this ship. I am the city lord of Holy Light City, Xing Juntian. These commoners should be from the primitive saint realm, right? Why are they all gathered here? The Master God introduced himself and then asked the question in his heart. Yi Qinghan immediately explained what happened in Raging Bull Village. The old village chief also agreed with Yi Qinghan's words. Only then did Xing Juntian believe him. The mount of the luminous martial battle body from the primal chaos era, the serpent, was needless to say. As a primal saint from the primal universe, he naturally knew that it was a superpower back in the day. Now that the era was in decline, the experts were falling one after another. Most of the giant gods of chaos had died in battle, and the remaining ones were weak. Moreover, they had all aged. It was almost impossible to think of another existence comparable to the serpent. Xing Juntian frowned. He definitely could not fight the serpent. He had to ask for help from the elites in the sacred realm. Come with me to the sacred realm. I will explain to the elders, Xing Juntian said in a low voice. I think your top priority now is to evacuate the civilians in the city and the nearby areas. Once the serpent awakens, the entire sacred realm might be destroyed. These ordinary creatures won't survive, Yi Qinghan reminded him. There are too many people, and we can't leave the Holy Land. According to what you said, the serpent will recover in at most 1.5 years. They can't escape, and we don't have enough time. The most we can do is to gather the powerful warriors to guard the front line. Only then can we help the people. I'll order the villagers from all counties to gather in the Holy Light City, and we'll fight together. Xing Juntian shook his head. He did not think that migrating was a good idea. 1.5 years might seem like a long time, but for migrating out of such a vast territory like the primitive sacred realm, it was simply a dream. Yi Qinghan nodded in agreement with Xing Juntian. Since they couldn't migrate, they could only try their best to protect them. Very quickly, Xing Juntian began to mobilize all of his spies and Holy Light City's intelligence system. He contacted the subordinate cities and counties, and the cities and counties notified the villages to return to Holy Light City. After Xing Juntian was done, Yi Qinghan and Xing Juntian took the space gate and headed to the sacred realm. The primitive sacred realm was huge, so huge that it was comparable to an enormous upper realm. However, the true sacred realm was very small, and it was located in the center of the primitive sacred realm. It was less than 10,000 miles in radius. This place was also called the primitive sacred sect, and the entire region belonged to the sacred sect. The will of the sacred sect was the will of the sacred realm, and no one dared to refute it. The primitive sacred sect might be the sect with the most complete inheritance apart from the two major camps. Even the Six Gods Tao sect could not be compared to it. There were only 108 major cities under Glory sect. There were countless smaller cities and counties, but not every major city was overseen by a lord. There were even some who were at perfect stage half-step lords, but their abilities were only slightly weaker than lord. As soon as they entered the sacred realm city, Xing Juntian said to Yi Qinghan, "Fighting is strictly prohibited in the sacred realm. You are not allowed to fly. When you see the sacred sect elders, you must be respectful. You must not blaspheme the sacred sect." Yi Qinghan shrugged. Old sects like this had many rules. The longer their legacy was passed down, the stronger their sense of superiority would be. They would not allow others to tarnish or blaspheme them. However, his goal was to kill the serpent god and use its skin to make his golden armor. There was no need for him to go against this large sect. Outside the sacred realm city there was a divine mountain. Divine chi lingered around it, and it shone brightly. The towering palaces were clearly visible, and the clouds were in the middle of the palaces. The disciples of the sacred sect might be more aggressive. Don't take them seriously, Xing Tian reminded him again as the two stepped out of the sacred realm city. Yi Qinghan grinned coldly and did not say anything else. The two came to the foot of the sacred realm mountain and looked at the majestic peaks that rose into the sky. The chaotic aura was abnormally thick, and fate shrouded them. It was no wonder that the sacred sect could pass down to this day. Yi Qinghan stood at the foot of the mountain for a long time, looking at the ethereal fate. He murmured, "Purple chi goes to the west and fate fades away. The sacred sect's legacy will not last for long." "What did you say?" Xing Tian asked in surprise. "Nothing, let's go up," Yi Qinghan said calmly. The two walked up. When they were dozens of meters high, they were stopped by a group of young disciples. The highest cultivation base was only at the high god level. However, they were really young, only a few hundred years old. To have such a cultivation base, they would definitely be a genius in the outside world. "Who are you? Do you have the sacred sect's decree?" The leader of the high gods looked down at Xing Tian and Yi Qinghan. Although he knew that the two's cultivation bases were much more terrifying than his, he did not care at all and asked arrogantly. Yi Qinghan could be considered to have seen the so-called sacred sect disciples are more powerful. This was clearly courting death, not strength. If these people were placed in the outside world, they would definitely not live to see the next day. "This old man is the city lord of the sacred light city. I have an important matter to discuss with the sacred sect elders. Little brothers, please help me pass the message." Xing Tian knew what was going on. He stretched out his hand and took out thousands of supreme-grade god crystals and handed them to the young disciples. Looking at the thousands of supreme-grade god crystals, the leader of the group revealed a look of disdain. However, he still took them and said coldly, "Wait here. Without the permission of the sacred sect, if you dare to take half a step above, you will be killed without mercy." Yi Qinghan sneered secretly. However, the god bird was a little unwilling to tolerate it. Jumping out of Yi Qinghan's shoulder, it asked Xing Tian in disdain, "You're a master god after all. How can you allow these little bastards to shout? If this was outside, these people would be thrown to their deaths the moment they were born." Xing Tian's face changed as he hurriedly stopped the god bird from speaking. Only by isolating the airflow between them did the god bird's words not reach the ears of the group of young people. "Fellow Taoist, take care of your pet. As the saying goes, it's easy to invite the king of hell, but difficult to send away the little ghost. These people can't be offended," Xing Tian said in a deep voice. "They're all spoiled." Yi Qinghan replied in disdain. Xing Tian laughed bitterly. "Those who can enter the sacred sect are all geniuses. 1 in a million. How can we not spoil them? My crazy sect doesn't even want such trash." "Geniuses?" the god bird said in disdain. Xing Tian was stunned. Looking at the god bird and Yi Qinghan's approving expression, he asked in surprise, "What kind of power is this crazy sect? Fellow Taoist, are you from the crazy sect?" Chapter 897. Yi Qinghan's aura changed as he boasted, "I'm just a kid from the insane sect. My insane sect is filled with powerful experts and dominates a region. Trash like the glory sect, I'm not trying to brag, but there's no way they can pass the outer assessment of the insane sect. I've heard about the primitive holy realm before. It was a super force in the past, and there were a few chaos giant gods. Under the leadership of the primitive holy god, it was indeed a peerless sect in the chaos era. You know about the primitive holy god? Xing Juntian was surprised. There were thousands of chaos giant gods, and the primitive holy god was a top expert. He was also revered by the master gods in the chaos era. However, after such a long time, even some of the saints did not know about the existence of the primitive holy god. Yet, Yi Qinghan, an outlander, knew about it. Yi Qinghan had read about the secret history of chaos. He knew a little about the true experts and super sects in the chaos era. It was not surprising that he knew about the primitive holy god. The more Yi Qinghan acted like a pretentious prick, the more Xing Juntian believed it to be true. He even thought that the insane sect was ridiculously strong. His attitude towards Yi Qinghan suddenly lost its sense of superiority. Just as the two were talking, a middle-aged man came up. He was a half-step lord, but his aura was very strong. He had a sense of superiority, like an emperor of the mortal world looking down on all living things. He looked down at Yi Qinghan and Xing Juntian and said calmly, "Saint City Lord, the third elder, Master Patian, has summoned you. As for this person, stay here and wait." Xing Juntian's expression changed slightly. He looked at Yi Qinghan with an awkward expression. Yi Qinghan did not care. After all, he was just using the primitive holy sect. It was already good enough for him to burn the bridge after using it. He did not expect to be married to them, so he did not care about their attitude. He said, "Go and explain. I'll wait outside." "Don't be angry, brother. I'll be right back," Xing Juntian said hurriedly. Finished speaking, Xing Juntian and the middle-aged man quickly walked halfway up the mountain. Yi Qinghan leaned against a stone tablet on the side of the road. He reached out and plucked a blade of grass. He put it in his mouth carelessly with a smile on his face. He looked at the boundless Xing land city and thought to himself, "If I can't defeat the python Xinjiao, I'm afraid this place will be razed to the ground. Let's see if the sage sect elders will take it seriously." On the road, young disciples constantly passed by. Some went up the mountain, while others went down. They all looked at Yi Qinghan curiously. Yi Qinghan looked very young and even more handsome. His cultivation was unfathomable, comparable to the elders and deacons in the sect. This made some disciples jealous. If not for the fact that they were no match for him, they would have taught him a lesson long ago. So handsome. Look at his smile, it's so charming. Wow, his cultivation base is so strong. I feel that he is not inferior to the senior brothers on the top 10 elite list. I like his unrestrained expression. This posture, even leaning against a stone, he looks so handsome. A group of young female disciples were infatuated. They walked back and forth in front of Yi Qinghan several times, making the male disciples even angrier. Whoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air could be heard, and flames could be seen from the friction in the air. Its target was Yi Qinghan. "Be careful!" A delicate female disciple was shocked. She reached out to grab the hidden weapon, but the force of the hidden weapon made her lose her balance. She directly fell towards Yi Qinghan's chest. Yi Qinghan let out a muffled groan, but he didn't dodge. Instead, he glared coldly at the incoming concealed weapon, causing it to be stuck half a meter in front of his forehead, unable to move an inch forward. It was a small stone. It was fixed in midair by Yi Qinghan's will. The force blew his black hair, and the little girl in his arms was mesmerized. Whoosh! The stone shot up into the air. Yi Qinghan did not use any strength. There was no fluctuation of divine power, and it disappeared in the blink of an eye. After a shrill scream, a young man fell from a big tree above. His palm was pierced by the stone. "How dare you attack a glory sect disciple? My hand! He crippled my arm. I can't heal it!" The young man screamed and wailed. He mobilized his divine power to heal the wound, but the flesh and blood of the wound on his palm had been completely destroyed. He could not heal the wound at all. All he could do was cry helplessly. "Kid, don't throw rubbish around. It's okay if you hurt yourself, but it's your fault if you hurt the flowers and plant. As a glory sect disciple, how can you not be compassionate? Yi Qinghan gently pushed away the little girl in his arms and said coolly. A few young female cultivators gulped. They were stunned by Yi Qinghan's handsomeness. Isn't that senior brother Ling Guang? He's a half-step lord. He's been in glory sect for thousands of years, but he couldn't even take one hit from this person. He's so strong. What nonsense are you talking about? I didn't even see him attack. A few young disciples who were peeping at Yi Qinghan from above discussed. Wow, he's a real expert. His movements are as smooth as flowing water. He's so cool. He's neither servile nor overbearing. He's a real man. The young female cultivator who was about to reach out to catch the hidden weapon said excitedly. Yi Qinghan smiled. He did not expect this little girl to be so nice. She was actually willing to catch the hidden weapon for him with her bare hand. However, her cultivation was a little too low. She was only a middle-level god. She looked very young, probably just reaching adulthood. In the world of cultivators, she would be considered a baby. Thank you for saving me. If it weren't for your reminder, I would have been killed, Yi Qinghan said calmly. No way. You're the strong one. I was worried for nothing. The little girl lowered her head shyly and said. Yi Qinghan smiled but did not say anything. It was rare to see such an innocent girl. I'm Zi Linger. What's your name? Which sect are you from? The little girl looked up and asked. I'm a rogue cultivator. People from your sect are all so perverted. Don't be like them. You'll get beaten up easily if you go out, Yi Qinghan joked. Boy, do you want to die? How dare you insult our sect's disciples at the foot of the Sage Sect's mountain? A few young men rushed over and surrounded Yi Qinghan. You've misunderstood. Senior brother Ling attacked first. Zi Ling reached out to protect Yi Qinghan. She wanted to speak for him, but she was interrupted by the group of people before she could finish. Go away, you traitor. You just joined the Sage Sect, and you don't even know how to protect the sect. Today, I'll report to the deacon and expel you from the sect. A high god youth scolded coldly. Yi Qinghan patted Zi Ling-er's shoulder lightly and motioned her to stand aside. Zi Ling-er looked at the unruly smile on his face, which was filled with disdain. She took 3 steps back and ran behind Yi Qinghan. She timidly looked at her so-called senior brothers and sisters. You punks want to bully me? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. Bully you? You've overestimated yourself. Do you think you're so great just because you have some skills? How dare you behave so atrociously in the Sage Sect? Even the giant god wouldn't dare. The leader of the group scolded angrily, but he did not dare to do anything. He waved his hand and motioned to the disciples behind him, which junior brother will go and ask senior brother Zi Guang and the rest to take care of this piece of trash. Zi Guang was one of the top young fighters in the Sage Sect. He was a half-step full god and was not weaker than the average overgod. He had fallen from the overgod level. If not for the chaos unification, he would have been a overgod and had a high status in the Sage Sect. A skinny, monkey-like young man with a wretched look turned around and ran towards Glory Sect. Ling Guang was still crying and screaming. His palm was bleeding profusely. No matter how hard he tried, he could not heal his injured body. The burning pain in his palm was unbearable. Yi Qinghan was still leaning against the rock. He spat out the grass that he chewed and reached out to grab another one. He glanced at the crowd lazily and did not reply. Chapter 898. Yi Qinghan leaned against a large rock and looked around calmly, admiring his surroundings. If not for the countless fops, this would be a holy land. Spiritual birds chirped and circled in the sky. The Glory Sect disciples glared at Yi Qinghan angrily. This was the first time they had seen someone who dared to look down on the Glory Sect disciples. Kid, why aren't you talking? The leader of the disciples roared angrily. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and sneered. I'm not your father. Why must I answer your question? You. The disciple was enraged. If not for the fact that he could not defeat Yi Qinghan, he would have attacked long ago. What about me? Get lost. I'm not your father. There's no need for me to be nice to you and spoil you every day. Even if you're from the two camps, I'll crush your head if you piss me off, let alone glory sect. Yi Qinghan released his aura and pressed down on the group of youths who had surrounded him. Boom. His aura alone scared 7 or 8 youths so much that their faces turned pale. One of the more timid ones even peed his pants. To be able to withstand Yi Qinghan's aura, one had to be at least a full-fledged half-step lord level. In Yi Qinghan's eyes, this group of children were like grasshoppers that he could crush at any time. This aura was not aggressive at all. It was purely to scare people. Yi Qinghan did not want to fall out with Glory Sect just yet. The Glory Sect disciples had never been humiliated like this before. Their faces turned the color of pig liver. Even the group of female cultivators who had praised Yi Qinghan did not dare to say anything. If they were to speak up for Yi Qinghan now, even the elders would think that they were traitors. Ling was frightened as well. She moved her small steps slowly and ran towards the foot of the mountain. Yi Qinghan grinned. Looking at the way she tiptoed, she did not look like a cultivator at all. Instead, she looked more like a child who had no intelligence at all. If she continued tiptoeing, she would be seen by others. It would be impossible for her to disassociate herself from this. Ling, you traitor! How dare you run? I will definitely tell Marshal Uncle. The leader of the disciples no longer dared to target Yi Qinghan, so he vented his anger on Ling. Ling scowled miserably as she turned to look at the crowd. She then looked at Yi Qinghan's gloating smile, and couldn't help but feel a little angry. How am I a traitor? Senior brother, you don't accuse me wrongly. Although I've just joined Glory Sect, my heart has always belonged to Glory Sect. You've been bullied by others, but you don't dare to retaliate. Instead, you bully a weak girl like me. What kind of man are you? What kind of senior brother are you? Ling Zier asked angrily. To be able to join Glory Sect, one had to be extremely talented or have an extraordinary background. Ling Zier's status was obviously rich and respectable. She was like a princess at home. How could she allow others to bully her? Slut, you still dare to talk back. That young man surnamed you glared at Ling Zier, but his vision blurred, and he saw a big slap. Smack, boom. That young man surnamed you was directly sent flying by the slap, crashing into Ling Guang's side. His head was smashed, and his face was swollen and bleeding. Buzz, buzz, buzz. That young man surnamed Yu's head was buzzing, and he was dizzy. He couldn't even stand up. Hiss, everyone took a deep breath. A few female cultivators covered their mouths with their hands, looking at Yi Qinghan in horror. This was the first time in thousands or even tens of thousands of years that Glory Sect had been slapped in the face by a young Outer Sect disciple. And it was such a vicious slap. What did you just say? I didn't hear it clearly. Can you say it again? Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and stared coldly at the young man surnamed Yu. That young man surnamed Yu's mouth was swollen, and a few of his teeth had fallen out. When he spoke, he couldn't speak clearly, but the fear, anger, and hatred in his eyes were self-evident. Not everyone in the world is your father. No one will spoil you. Now that chaos has returned to one, the universe belongs to everyone in the world, not your Glory Sect. I don't have so many nice words to teach you how to be a human. This slap is to teach you how to be a human. If you don't teach it well, it won't be a slap next time. Yi Qinghan said coldly. Yi Qinghan's body gradually emitted a murderous aura, and the cold air was oppressive. People standing 100 meters away from him could feel the deep chill. They shivered and didn't dare to look at Yi Qinghan again. How dare you? Woo-woo, that young man surnamed Yu retreated while cursing. But his words were not clear, and no one understood what he was saying. At this time, a strong young man came down from the mountain. It was Ziguang, the 8th strongest of the Glory Sect's young generation. He was also one of the top 10 strongest of the young generation in the entire Xing domain. Everywhere he went, the city lords had to come out to greet him. Ziguang was very tall and handsome. He was a famous Prince Charming in the Xing domain. At this moment, he looked around coldly and stared at Yi Qinghan. He asked in a hoarse voice, "Are you the one who attacked my disciples? Do you know where this place is?" "Glory Sect, what's wrong? You can bully me, but I can't fight back? I didn't expect the disciples of Glory Sect to be more superior than the people of the two camp." Yi Qinghan said indifferently, "You've got guts. How dare you talk to me like that?" Ziguang stepped forward and said coldly, "Senior brother Ziguang, this person attacked me sneakily and injured my hand. Senior brother, you spoke up for me. I didn't expect him to hit senior brother you. He's obviously looking down on Glory Sect. You have to stand up for us." Ling Guang lay on the ground and wailed. Yi Qinghan sighed. Indeed, the older the sect, the more decadent it was. No wonder Glory Sect's purple chi was gone. With such a disciple, it would be strange if their luck was not gone. "Seal your own cultivation and follow me to the sect to be punished," Ziguang said coldly. Piak. Yi Qinghan's figure flashed and slapped him again. Then, he returned to his original spot and leaned against the big rock. It was as if he had not moved at all. Ziguang was directly slapped by Yi Qinghan. He stumbled and almost fell to the ground. He covered his face and looked at Yi Qinghan angrily. His whole body was shaking. Obviously, he was angry. Everyone was speechless as they looked at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. "I've said it before. I'm not a person who will spoil you guys. Don't provoke me anymore. If you really want to bully me, get your elders to come out personally. If you want to reason with me, let's sit down and reason, okay?" After slapping someone, Yi Qinghan still wanted to reason with him. However, his expression was still casual. In terms of being unreasonable, there was no one in the world who was more unreasonable than him. Ziguang was so angry that he was confused. "Ling Guang and you were scared silly." At this moment, even Ling was scared silly. They did not expect their powerful senior brother Ziguang to be slapped by a rogue cultivator. Yi Qinghan's attitude was clear. If he wanted to reason with them, he would reason with them. If he didn't, he would use his fist. He was more versatile. The divine bird was overjoyed. It loved to see such scenes. It rushed out of Yi Qinghan's body and shouted, "Don't reason with him. Come and hit us." Yi Qinghan's body swayed and almost fell down the mountain. He had lived for thousands of years, and this was the first time he had heard such a despicable request from the divine bird. "Don't think of leaving today." Ziguang's eyes flashed coldly as he sent a message to the message amulet at his waist. He stared at Yi Qinghan. Chapter 899. Ziguang and the others stared at Yi Qinghan and blocked Yi Qinghan's way. Ling was at a loss. She did not expect that catching a hidden weapon would cause so much trouble. She might not care about Ling Guang or senior brother Yu, but she could not go against Ziguang, who was ranked in the top 10 of the Sage sect. The Z family was also a big family, but compared to the Sage sect, they were still too weak. Yi Qinghan calmly looked at the lofty mountains, flowers flying and butterflies dancing. He didn't look at Ziguang and the others. They were just a bunch of fops. Even if the Sage sect's elders came out personally and the sect master arrived, they still wouldn't be able to catch him. He was still confident. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Soon, more than 10 young experts rushed down from the Sage Mountain. Each of them looked like a jade, and their auras were released, suppressing Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan could not help but admit that even though this glory sect was a little decadent, they did have quite a number of powerful beings. To think that there would be a master god amongst the younger generation as well. However, compared to the giant god of chaos, they were still lacking by quite a bit. Hurry up and run. Senior brother Xiangzhua is the third super genius of the Sage sect, and he is also a giant god. You can't beat him. Ling Zier secretly transmitted a message, hoping that this matter would end quickly and cover up the fact that she had attacked. Swoosh! Yi Qinghan stuck out the tip of his tongue and shot out the grass in his mouth. It was sharper than a divine weapon, and directly pierced into a big tree. Xiangzhua, who was the leader, narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Qinghan. He thought to himself, he's actually an expert, but he dares to come to the Sage sect and cause trouble. He's simply courting death. Young man, who brought you to the Sage sect? Didn't they teach you the rules? Xiangzhua asked coldly. Yi Qinghan crossed his arms and leaned against the mountain rock. His unruly smile did not change. He looked at the so-called powerful master in front of him and replied indifferently. Rules? I only have my own rules in my eyes. Are you here to reason with me or to use your fists? Xiangzhua's eyes flashed coldly. He clenched his iron fist and began to emit killing intent. He could not stop sneering. When had the people of the Sage sect ever been reasonable? You're being unreasonable? Then come and beat us up, the divine bird said sarcastically. Poof! Ling Zier really wanted to hold it in, but unfortunately she still laughed out loud. Many people also laughed along with her. Ziguang coldly glared at Ling Zier, scaring her so much that her face turned pale. She hurriedly took a few steps back and lowered her head, not daring to make another sound. Do you want me to reason with you or use my fists? Xiangzhua ignored the divine bird and asked disdainfully. Yi Qinghan said calmly, I'm pretty good at both of these things, but I advise you to reason with me. My fists are stronger than reason. Then I'll stick to my fists. Boom! Xiangzhua's veins bulged as his iron fist tore through the air and smashed towards Yi Qinghan. It was so fast that no one could react in time. The strong wind blew and swept Yi Qinghan's black hair. Even the divine bird's feathers were blown away. Boom! Yi Qinghan stood up slightly and twisted his toes to stabilize his body. He launched the 5 elements dragon fists in an instant. With a twist of his waist, his iron fist punched back at Xiang Yu's iron fist. Crack! Ah! Xiangzhua's face was ferocious. He felt that his body and even his soul were being burned by fire. His iron fist was pierced and he lost consciousness. His body flew backward and hit a side peak, almost collapsing the mountain. Everyone was speechless. Ling Zier looked at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. She felt that he was not that old, but he actually crippled Xiangzhua, who was worshipped by the young disciples of the Sage sect. Yi Qinghan did not move at all. He slowly leaned back and said calmly, If you don't listen to your elders, you will suffer. I already said that my fists are stronger, but you don't believe me. What a child! Everyone was speechless. The divine bird, F***ck, you messed up my perfect white feathers. The ripples of sovereign's might immediately alerted the elders above. 2 middle-aged experts flew down through the air, staring down at the foot of the mountain. They saw that both Xiang's left and right arms had been broken, and blood was dripping from them. They couldn't help but stare at Yi Qinghan in shock. Young man, you are the first one who dares to attack in the Sage sect. An elder said angrily. Yi Qinghan shook his head helplessly and sighed. Why is it always this sentence? Is there no one who wants to reason with me? Is the primitive sacred sect rotten to this extent? You can reason with us, but you insist on using your fists. What a tragedy of this era. The divine bird agreed. Reason with us? You hurt our disciples in the Sage sect. What reason do you have? The elder shouted angrily again and pressed Yi Qinghan. Since you don't want to reason with us, then come and hit us. The divine bird mocked. Sigh. I originally wanted peace, but all I met were a bunch of unreasonable idiots. Yi Qinghan shook his head helplessly. Wait. Everyone in the Sage sect, Please don't misunderstand. This is an outsider. This is his first time here. He came for the serpent god of the chaos era. He is just thinking for the sake of the sage sect. He doesn't know the rules of the sage sect. Everyone, please don't argue with him. At this moment, Xing Juntian hurriedly ran down and said to the two elders, "Can an outsider not follow the rules? Xing Juntian, who allowed you to bring an outsider into the sage sect?" The black-robed elder scolded angrily. Elder Xiang Long, Elder Xiang Hu, it was Junior who didn't think things through. However, due to the urgency of the matter, Junior had no other choice. Just now, I met with the Great Elder, Second Elder, and Third Elder. They also felt that the matter was rather troublesome, so they sent out the top 3 experts of the younger generation to suppress the demon. Xing Juntian quickly explained. Yi Qinghan frowned. Against the serpent god, sage sect sent 3 of the younger generation? How arrogant were they? How ignorant were they? Xiang Long and Xiang Hu also frowned and asked suspiciously, if it's really the first-generation serpent god, what's the use of sending 3 children? The great elder said that the serpent god found in the barbarian bull village may not be the mount of the first-generation serpent god, but an ordinary descendant of the serpent god. Because the sage sect has never lost its inheritance in the sage sect, no one has heard of anyone suppressing the first-generation serpent god here. It may be that some powerful person from a certain era suppressed the ordinary serpent god here, but it wasn't enough to alarm sage sect, so we didn't know. If it's really the first-generation serpent god, there's no way we wouldn't have recorded it, Xing Juntian explained. Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. He was defeated by the stubbornness of the sage sect. The stone tablet from the Chaos era could not be faked, and the Ice War god would not lie. That was the real Chaos god. How could he not know the serpent god? Sending 3 youngsters is obviously not enough. If they could kill the serpent god, why would I inform you? Yi Qinghan replied coldly. Chapter 900. Yi Qinghan's words angered everyone in Glory Sect. Which of the top 3 wasn't a genius and was known as the giant god? Especially the number 1 Yuan Zhengjin and number 2 Dao god. Their cultivation was even more terrifying than some of the older generation giant gods. They were close to the chaos giant god, who dared to look down on them. So you're saying that you can sweep through the top 3 of my Glory Sect? They can deal with it, but you can deal with it alone? Elder Xiang Hu asked angrily. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you on this matter. I can confirm that the one suppressed under the barbarian bull rock is indeed the first-generation serpent god. Even if the stone tablet left behind by the frost war god is wrong, can I not believe what I saw with my own eyes? Against the serpent god you sent 3 useless trash. Isn't that a joke? Yi Qinghan's attitude turned cold. When it came to the bottom line, he was never ambiguous. Zi Guang was furious, and Xiang's veins were bulging. Who in the entire Glory Sect dared to call them trash? Not to mention the top 3 figures. Xiang Hu and Xiang Long stared at Yi Qinghan. Xing Juntian's expression was also very ugly. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so unruly, directly provoking the primitive sage realm and Glory Sect. Yi Qinghan was too lazy to argue with them. He pointed at Xiang Zuo on the ground and said, "This trash is the top 3 of Glory Sect, right? I can pinch him to death with a finger. As for the other 2, I don't even want to face them. Even I was scared when I saw the sealed Xiong Xinjiao. Is Glory Sect sending the 3 of them just to cause trouble?" Yi Qinghan scolded bluntly. "Impudent kid. Humiliating Glory Sect like this. I'll see what you're made of." Xiang Hu roared. He didn't even bother to take out his weapon. He jumped into the air and kicked Yi Qinghan. Behind him, the image of a giant tiger was vivid and lifelike. Roar. Yi Qinghan was even angrier. Dragon blood roared, and he became even more arrogant. he rushed into the sky with the giant dragon formed from energy. His long legs swept, and time reversed. He kicked Xiang Hu's chest. Bang! The giant tiger behind Xiang Hu collapsed. His body turned into a sharp sword and flew straight into Glory Sect. Yi Qinghan took care of the Grand Elder cleanly. He looked at the people of Glory Sect coldly and said in disdain, "Ask your Grandmaster to come out and talk to me. If he is not willing to come out personally and join forces with the other powerful beings to deal with Xiong Shenjiao, I will turn around and leave. If not for the sake of the world, do you think I would be willing to face Xiong Shenjiao?" Xingju Tian sucked in a cold breath. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan's cultivation to be so terrifying. Even if Elder Xiang Hu underestimated him, he shouldn't have been defeated so miserably. Yi Qinghan shook his head. The primitive holy sect was so powerful, but it was a pity that it was decaying day by day. It was no longer as mighty as it used to be. Once a Saint Realm expert came out of this sect, or if it was discovered by outside forces, it would definitely be the first sect to be destroyed. Ling Zier was speechless. She didn't expect to show off in front of an expert. She actually ran to catch the hidden weapon that was used to attack Yi Qinghan. This person could kill her with just a breath. Ling Guang and Disciple Yu's faces were pale. They finally understood how ignorant they were. Yi Qinghan wanted to reason with them, but they wanted to talk with their fists. They were really lucky to not be dead. "Brother, you have a big temper. You are actually throwing a tantrum at the foot of Glory Sect." A voice came from above. Everyone from Glory Sect was shocked. They knelt down immediately, including Xing Juntian. Powerful beings, true powerful beings. Yi Qinghan's eyes were serious. He stood up slowly and looked up. 4 figures stepped through the air, all of them wearing embroidered clothes. They were all extremely aged, having lived through countless years. Even if they didn't reach the end of their lifespans, they were already past their prime. To be able to reach their current level, they definitely had a glorious past. The leading old man was the Grandmaster of Glory Sect. He was a direct descendant of the primordial Saint God. He had the bloodline of the primordial Saint God, and his name was Primordial Taoist God. In the primordial Saint realm, he was the only true God. The remaining 3 weren't simple either. They were the top elders of Glory Sect. Their cultivation bases were second only to Primordial Taoist God, and they all had the bloodline of the Primordial Saint God. "These are true powerful beings," Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. Facing such powerful beings, he had to maintain a sense of respect. That was because they had walked too far. Junior Yi Qinghan of Crazy Sect greets the elders of Glory Sect. "Everything I said is true. The thing suppressed in the lake behind Barbarian Bull Village is indeed the Serpent God. To think that your esteemed sect would send 3 juniors to slay it. What a joke," Yi Qinghan said solemnly. "Crazy sect? I've never heard of it. Regardless of whether the Serpent God is real or not, I'm afraid it's inappropriate for you to take action in our Glory Sect. If word gets out, where will our Glory Sect put its face?" Third Elder said coldly. Yi Qinghan shuddered. He had never seen such a rotten person. To think that he valued his face more than the entire Glory Sect. "Is your face that important? Once the Serpent God appears, the entire world will suffer. It's not just your primordial Saint realm. As an outsider, I value it so much. How can you value the face of Glory Sect? What a joke." Yi Qinghan was a little angry. His fingertips trembled as he said hoarsely, "Do you think that Crazy Sect is a nameless sect that doesn't deserve to be on the same level as Glory Sect? That I'm even less worthy to take action against Glory Sect?" Yi Qinghan's eyes shone with a cold light as he laughed coldly. Glory Sect, in the Chaos Era, was indeed one of the strongest sections. Other than the 2 great factions, no one else could match up to you. Even though Crazy Sect was a sect that rose up later, we still had the right to talk to Glory Sect back in the day, let alone a rotten Glory Sect. Primordial Tao God frowned as he looked at Yi Qinghan, who was neither servile nor overbearing. Based on this aura alone, he was indeed much stronger than the younger disciples of Glory Sect. However, the honor of Glory Sect could not be tarnished. Yi Qinghan clearly looked down on Glory Sect. Who was the founder of your sect? Primordial Tao God asked indifferently. Is that important? Just based on the fact that Glory Sect has gathered the inheritors of the Chaos Dragon, the Purple Emperor, and the Celestial Treasure Battle Body, do you think that Crazy Sect can speak to you on the same level? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Crazy Sect might be unknown. However, the Chaos Dragon and the Purple Emperor were both supreme gods. Their inheritors would definitely become top-tier master gods in the future. In fact, they might even become supreme gods. Other than the two great factions, which other sect could do this? The Celestial Treasure Battle Body was one of the top 10 battle bodies. Although its cultivation base and fighting strength were unknown, how bad could it be? Whether it was humans or gods, they all had the mentality of worshipping the strong. If the Crazy Sect had no background, no one would pay attention to what Yi Qinghan said. However, if he had a terrifying background, his words were enough to make the people of the Sage Sect think twice. Primordial Tao God and the three elders were silent. The younger disciples lowered their heads, no longer daring to look at Yi Qinghan as an enemy. Let me ask you guys. The Serpent God Dragon is about to be born. Are you guys going to do something about it? If not, I'll turn around and leave. Even if it revives, it will take hundreds or even thousands of years for it to harm Crazy Sect. By then, there might be a supreme god in our sect. Someone like that is still within our sight. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Chapter 901. Yi Qinghan did not give him any face at all. After all, he was not the one who would die. The primordial Taoist god fell into deep thought. He had seen Yi Qinghan's strength. To be able to take down a newly promoted overgod with a single kick might not mean much to a high-level overgod, but Yi Qinghan's background meant that he had to take him seriously. Are you sure that it's really the Serpent God? The primordial Taoist god asked with a frown. Very sure. Yi Qinghan nodded. The primordial Taoist god and the others were puzzled. The legacy of the Holy Land had never been broken. Yet, there was no record of such a thing. It did not make sense. Of course, I also hope that my judgment is wrong. After all, if that thing is really the mount of the first-generation Guangwu combat body and has recovered to its peak state, we won't be able to hold it down even if there are 10 times more of us. Yi Qinghan shrugged. Brother, how do you plan to deal with it? The primordial Taoist god stared at Yi Qinghan and asked. How else can we deal with it? Let's get rid of it before it recovers. Even if it recovers now, it will take a long time to get used to it. The time when its combat strength is at its weakest is also the best time for us to strike. Yi Qinghan replied quickly. However, you'll have to mobilize all the overgods and half-step overgods in the Holy Land to form a huge defensive circle. We can't let the shockwaves of the battle spread out. Otherwise, the primitive Holy Land will be razed to the ground. Yi Qinghan reminded. Xing Juntian looked at the primordial Taoist god respectfully, hoping that he would start setting up defenses outside his city. The primordial Taoist god nodded. Looking at the three elders, he asked softly, should we ask the Supreme Elder to come out of seclusion? Senior Brother Sect Master, whether it's the Serpent God or not is one thing. I feel that we should investigate this matter thoroughly before making any plans. This guy's background is unknown, and he injured people in Glory Sect. If this is a diversion, wouldn't our Glory Sect be destroyed? The third elder was very unhappy with Yi Qinghan. If it weren't for the fact that he was worried about the two legendary overgod heirs, he would have long since killed Yi Qinghan. Third junior brother's words are reasonable. I also think that we should send someone to investigate before making a decision. After all, the Grand Elders are already nearing the end of their lifespans. They can't afford to be tormented. Second elder and first elder agreed. The primeval Tao heavenly god hesitated. Yi Qinghan was speechless. As expected, if the upper beam was not straight, the lower beam would be crooked. With such an elder, it would be strange if the disciples were not like this. Pedantic people can't let go of the high and mighty glory. The sage realm that was strong for a time has now become a rotten sect. The sun is setting in the west, and the luck is pouring out. There is no cure. Since you guys don't care and don't trust me, yours truly shall take my leave. Don't regret it when you face the awakening of the serpent god dragon in the future. Yi Qinghan said coldly. Hold it, lad. You think that you can deceive yours truly with just a few words? Don't even think about leaving before we investigate the matter of the serpent god dragon thoroughly. If there is such a thing, then that's a different story. But if it's just a fabrication, we'll definitely kill you right here and now. The third elder blocked Yi Qinghan's path forcefully, blocking him at the foot of the Sage Realm mountain. Ding! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and the Spear of Time appeared, emitting a Chaos God aura. Its aura surged into the heavens, suppressing the fourth elder so much that he did not dare to move. Even his breathing had stopped. Dozens of figures rushed out of Glory Sect. They were all master gods. However, the only one who had the true godhood of the Chaos Giant God was this primeval Tao God. Even the three elders weren't. Perhaps the Grand Elders who were hiding had the godhood of the Chaos Giant God. However, they were nearing the end of their lifespans, and would definitely not come out of seclusion until the sect was destroyed. Spear of Time, Chaos Giant God battle weapon. Primeval Tao God was knowledgeable, and recognized the Spear of Time. You're someone from the Six Gods Tao sect? Primeval Tao God asked immediately. The Six Gods Tao sect exists only in name now. This God battle weapon is something that I borrowed from the Six Gods Tao sect. Yi Qinghan replied coldly. Has the world changed? The Six Gods Tao sect used to be one of the strongest sects in the past. To think that it would exist only in name now. Primeval Tao God sighed softly and waved his hand, indicating for everyone to back down. Helpless, the third elder could only step aside and stop being so overbearing. Young man, this old man will believe you this once. However, I'll still have to send someone to investigate this matter. Otherwise, I won't be able to get the Grand Elders to help. Primeval Tao God said solemnly. Yi Qinghan calculated the time. If he were to send out Master Gods to investigate, there would still be time. However, could these Master Gods reach the bottom of the lake? Could they withstand the heart of frost? There's less than a year and a half left. Send the Master Gods to look at the stone tablet of the barbarian bull village. It's written in the primal chaos scripture. Some of you should be able to recognize it. As for the bottom of the lake, there's the heart of frost. That's all I can say. Yi Qinghan said calmly. I'll wait for you guys in Saint City for a month. If there's no answer by then, I'll leave immediately. I won't wait for my death here. With that, Yi Qinghan walked towards the foot of the mountain. When he passed by Zi-Ling and saw her panicking face, he turned around and reminded her, this young lady might be the only talent that can be nurtured in your sect. The hearts of the others have long decayed and stopped at the level of Master Gods. Even if they become Master Gods, they won't have the heart of a strong person. If you guys don't adjust soon, Glory Sect will definitely perish within 1,000 years. With that, Yi Qinghan turned around and left without another word. Actually, how could the elders and grandmasters not know that Glory Sect was decaying? How could they not be proud of their inheritance from the primal chaos? It was precisely because they could not let go of their pride that they were getting more and more decayed. 100,000 feet tall building would be destroyed at the base. Once the base decayed, it would collapse instantly. It was just that Glory Sect had always been unwilling to face it. Xingjun, Daoshin, the two of you will accompany Xing Juntian to Saint Light City. Check out the truth of the serpent god. As for the bottom of the lake, there's no need to check it out. The heart of ice can freeze master gods. It's extremely dangerous. Primordial Daoshan looked at the two young men with extraordinary auras behind him, and said in a deep voice, "Yes, revered master." The two young powerful beings bowed and replied, "Junior brothers, inform Glory Sect to prepare for war. All giant gods and half-step master gods are to come out of seclusion and be on standby." Primordial Daoshan ordered once more. The three elders had a serious look in their eyes. Even though they hated Yi Qinghan, they had to admit that his foresight was rather unique. To think that he would dare to speak up. Ling had profited from her misfortune and caught the attention of the Primordial Daoshan. She was even questioned by the Primordial Daoshan and was appointed as a right-in disciple. Immediately, her status surpassed most of the other disciples. Even Guang, who was ranked in the top 10, had to address her as junior sister. Ling was overjoyed. Because of her, the Z family's status in Glory Sect was rising as well. Yi Qinghan was not concerned about this. He was just helping her out casually. After all, she had offended Guang and the other young people because of him. If he did not say anything, Ling and the entire Z family would be implicated by those young disciples. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had entered Glory Sect City. This was the first time he had come to a city that resembled the primal chaos era. Looking around, he realized that the customs were completely different from the outside world. There was a lot of respect for the strong. Every level represented a different status. Of course, Glory Sect disciples were an exception. Chapter 902. The Sacred Land City was full of ancient charm. Their words, actions, and etiquette were similar to the Chaos era. However, there was always a group of people who were independent. The Sacred Land City was gradually losing its ancient charm. It had become impetuous and violent. The most basic etiquette was just a formality. Yi Qinghan walked aimlessly in the crowd. He looked at the shops on both sides and the crowd and sighed softly. The so-called giant god doesn't even know where his home is and where his path is. Facing the vast chaotic universe, the giant god is just SOSO. Yi Qinghan secretly mocked and smiled bitterly. Now that the little master has become a master god, she represents the supreme god of the Chaos Dragons. I think the people in the two camps won't dare to do anything to her. The crazy sect will be safe. We should think about how to find our way back. The divine bird lay on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and looked at the Sacred Land City. It found an inexplicable energy floating in the city. What a strange energy fluctuation. The divine bird murmured. You found it too? I also feel a special energy that seems to be very important to me. Yi Qinghan stared ahead and followed his intuition. He kept walking toward the center of the city. The man and the bird walked quietly as if they were in harmony with the world. He was the only person in the world. Everyone looked at him and felt that he was not a person of this world. He stood out among the crowd and did not want to be in this dirty world. The impetuous people quieted down and turned to look at Yi Qinghan. The street fell into silence. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and felt the energy. The energy seemed to be affecting his qi, blood, and consciousness. His back became more and more imposing. The breeze lifted his hair and made him look so otherworldly. At this moment, he had entered an unprecedented state of epiphany. He felt the great path's principle and origin. It was so clear that it seemed to be at his fingertips. If time allowed, his progress would be terrifying. His combat strength would improve by leaps and bounds. On the side of the street, a young man dressed in an embroidered robe looked at Yi Qinghan with disgust. The corners of his mouth revealed a hint of disdain and jealousy. He was followed by a few vicious servants who revealed vicious looks. At this moment, they also felt that Yi Qinghan had stolen their master's dignity and glory. A young girl followed closely behind the young man. She stared at Yi Qinghan with an infatuated look in her eyes, which angered the young man beside her. He pushed the young girl fiercely, and the young girl's slender body directly crashed into Yi Qinghan. Just as Yi Qinghan sensed the location of the clear energy and entered a state of epiphany, he suddenly screamed. His body shook violently and he broke through the state of one with the world. Ouch! A crisp and charming voice broke the silence of the street. Yi Qinghan staggered and opened his eyes. He was burning with anger as he looked at the young girl's panicked expression. He followed her gaze and saw the young man, and his killing intent burst forth. Yi Qinghan could not help but be angry. If he succeeded in his epiphany this time, the laws, great Tao, and origin that he had comprehended would most likely enter the great success realm from the small success realm. At that time, his realm would not increase, but his combat strength would be more than 10 times greater than it was now. You are courting death. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. His calm and tranquil heart became violent, and a baleful aura enveloped the entire street. Motherf *Ker, are you an outsider? You don't even know who I am, and yet you dare to speak so arrogantly. Aren't you the one courting death? The young man taunted with disdain. Ha ha! Yi Qinghan was so angry that he laughed. The icy aura was bone-chilling. The young girl in front of him trembled as she sensed Yi Qinghan's anger. Is that so? May I know which aristocratic family you are from? Yi Qinghan asked with a sneer. Bastard, you don't even know my master. You must be blind. The evil slaves behind the young man cursed angrily. Little bastard, how dare you speak to me in such a manner? If I were to reveal my identity, I'm afraid you would be scared to death. The young man was unfathomable and only wanted to show off his might. At this moment, he was recklessly provoking Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's anger reached its peak and he lost his patience. He grabbed the air with his left hand and grabbed the young man into his palm. He waved his right hand and slapped the young man dozens of times, each louder than the last. Pa 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 pa, ah 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 ah. The young man let out a heart-wrenching scream as his teeth and blood flew out. He struggled frantically, trying to grab Yi Qinghan, but in front of Yi Qinghan, he was just a wretched young man. He had no chance of resisting. The evil slaves were enraged as they roared and charged at Yi Qinghan. Bastard, how dare you hit a Taoist? Are you tired of living? Kill him! Don't hurt the young master. The group of evil slaves charged at Yi Qinghan ferociously. Die! Yi Qinghan's cold light flashed and a stream of his will rushed into the consciousness of the evil slaves. He did not use any of his divine power. The evil slaves were only halfway there when their bodies went limp and their eyes were filled with fear and despair. The people on the street immediately fell into chaos. Some fled while others screamed. It was as if Yi Qinghan had angered someone he should not have. Yi Qinghan was furious. Seeing the young man baring his fangs and brandishing his claws, Yi Qinghan broke the young man's arms and kicked horizontally, breaking the young man's legs. Kacha, the crisp sound of bones breaking was especially ear-piercing. The young man was scared senseless by Yi Qinghan's aura. But how could Yi Qinghan let him pass out? He pointed a finger at the young man's chest. The young man opened his eyes instantly and looked at Yi Qinghan in fear. It was as if he had seen the devil. The piercing pain in his soul caused his entire body to convulse. Taoist? I've never heard of it. Yi Qinghan looked at the young man and said hoarsely. Ah, it hurts. My brother is a Tao god, the second eldest disciple of Glory Sect. Just you wait. Ouch. I was wrong. Everyone in the city recognized this young man. He was indeed from the Taoist sect. He was the youngest son of the Taoist sect, Dao Wuji. Because he was spoiled by his family, he was even more dandy than Yi Kuan and had no bottom line. On the other hand, the Taoist sect could only be considered as a country bumpkin. If not for the fact that the Taoist sect was tied to the huge car of Glory sect, the Taoist sect would be nothing. Tao God. Yi Qinghan's consciousness flashed as he recalled the name of the second eldest disciple of Glory sect. He could not help but laugh coldly, and here I thought Taoism was some great power. Turns out it was just a family that rose up because of a piece of trash. The second eldest disciple of Glory sect was called a piece of trash by Yi Qinghan. This shocked the people who were standing far away on the street. The little girl who was pushed by Dao Wuji and knocked into Yi Qinghan stared at him in disbelief. You should be honored to have pissed me off completely. I'll let you see the consequences of my anger. Yi Qinghan said coldly. What are you trying to do? If my brother knew, he would not let you off. Dao Wuji looked at Yi Qinghan in fear. Sensing the killing intent, he could not help but threaten. Today, even if Glory sect's Grandmaster came personally, he would not be able to change the fate of Taoism. Yi Qinghan lifted Dao Wuji and looked at the girl who knocked into him coldly. He said coldly, "Take me to Taoism or I'll kill you too." Chapter 903. The little girl was innocent. Her eyes were watery. Today, she was forced by her parents to go shopping with a spoiled brat. Who knew that when she saw Yi Qinghan's otherworldly aura, she became infatuated and angered Dao Wuji. That was why she was thrown out and bumped into him. However, Yi Qinghan was really angry right now. This was a rare epiphany that only happened once in 10,000 years. What a lucky bastard he was to encounter it. But at the critical moment, he didn't get any benefits at all. Instead, it was ruined by someone. Yi Qinghan was angry. His eyes contained a will that could not be defied. She could only walk in front and lead the Taoist sect of the Azura dynasty. The Taoist sect was located in the center of the east of the city. Even the city lord had to give them some face. Even though the Taoist sect didn't have a master god in the older generation, they still benefited from it. With a master god around, who would dare to offend them? Yi Qinghan walked briskly towards the east of the city. The little girl's legs were weak. She was carried by him and led the way. She didn't dare to say much as tears streamed down her face. The Taoist sect's gate was decorated with lanterns. The dragon and tiger statues were majestic. Just based on the feng shui, it was definitely a top-notch place. However, it gave birth to a bunch of trash. Or perhaps it was a nouveau riche family that suddenly had a top-notch genius. Other than Sage sect, they didn't care about anyone else. The Taoist sect's evil slave saw Yi Qinghan's murderous aura from afar. He was carrying two people towards the Taoist sect. One of them was the young master. The slave was furious. Someone come. The young master has been captured by evil people. Someone come quickly. Someone come quickly. Inform the family head. The slave was shocked. He was frightened by Yi Qinghan's aura. He hurriedly retreated, not daring to get close. Who dares to hurt the young master of the Taoist sect in our city? A strong guard rushed out and slashed at Yi Qinghan with his sword. Yi Qinghan casually tossed the little girl aside and grabbed the divine weapon with his bare hands. The superior divine sword was like tofu in his hands as it was twisted into a fried dough twist. The high god bodyguard who attacked stood rooted to the ground. He stared at Yi Qinghan in terror. He had never seen anyone with such a terrifying body that could twist a divine sword into a fried dough twist with his bare hand. Crack! Yi Qinghan released his chi and turned the fried dough twist into dust. The hand of entanglement turned into a dragon and grabbed the exalted god's neck. With a gentle twist, the exalted god's neck was broken. In the end, the exalted god's soul couldn't escape and died. Boom! Yi Qinghan swung his hand and threw the high god's corpse towards the gate. The gate was smashed through and the corpse fell heavily on the stone floor, causing cracks to appear. The people at the entrance of the Taoist school did not dare say a word. All of them trembled as they looked at Yi Qinghan. Who are you, fellow Taoist? He dared to make a move in the Saint realm. Are you tired of living? A deep voice rang out. The aura of a half-step lord enveloped the Taoist school's gate. Subsequently, 7 to 8 figures walked out of the Taoist school. One of them was an old man who was clearly the head of the family. The rest were either Dao Wuji's uncles or bodyguards. The half-step lord who spoke was the most powerful bodyguard in the Taoist school. If the lords did not appear, he was definitely one of the most powerful people in Saint City. He was loyal to the Taoist school, and his status in the Taoist school was no lower than the direct descendants of powerhouses. He stood guard beside the head of the Taoist school and stared coldly at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan smirked and grabbed at the air. The powerful half-step lord did not even have the courage to fight back. His divine body flew toward Yi Qinghan involuntarily. The Taoist school was stunned. The most powerful half-step lord had been captured by Yi Qinghan through space. How powerful did he have to be to do that? What's so great about Saint City? They didn't do anything to me when I attacked them in Glory Sect just now. Yi Qinghan was so angry that his voice changed. He grabbed the half-step lord by the neck and said hoarsely, "Senior, I didn't mean to offend you." The half-step lord bodyguard was terrified. No matter how powerful he was, his divine power froze in front of Yi Qinghan. He could not mobilize it at all, let alone attack. "Go get the Glory Sect elder." The head of the Taoist school, Dao Kong, hurriedly signaled a middle-aged man beside him with his eyes. The middle-aged man retreated to the Taoist school quietly and charged out of the side door, dashing toward Glory Sect. Boom! Yi Qinghan was no longer interested in reasoning with them. He raised his fist and stomped Dao Wuji and the bodyguard beneath his feet. He punched and kicked them. Every punch went deep into their flesh. He needed to vent the anger in his heart. "Sir, please don't be rash. If my son from the Taoist school has offended you, please tell us. The Taoist school is willing to apologize." Dao Kong's expression changed drastically. He knew that the Taoist school would not be able to defeat Yi Qinghan even if they attacked together. He hurriedly put in a good word. "Apologize? I don't need it. You can't afford it either. Today I'll beat him to death in front of the Taoist school. None of his direct descendants can escape." Yi Qinghan shouted coldly. "I want the people of Saint Territory City to what? If they can't control their own children, they'll implicate their entire family." Dao Kong was furious. How long had it been since the Taoist school had been humiliated like this? Even the Glory Sect elder wanted to talk to him, as if he was of the same generation. Where did this hothead come from? As long as you name a price, the Taoist school will definitely compensate. Please spare Wuji's life. He's still immature. Please don't be calculative with him, Dao Kong said in a low voice, holding back his anger. Yi Qinghan could not stop laughing coldly. How many times could a lord-level epiphany happen? Just one would be enough. How was he going to compensate? What did these exalted gods who only knew how to enjoy themselves know? Boom! Yi Qinghan stomped Dao Wuji's leg into the ground. The bones in his leg broke, and Dao Wuji fainted immediately. He did not even have the chance to scream. "Shang Xiaoxian, what trouble did you cause outside?" Dao Kong saw that Yi Qinghan was ignoring him, so he could only ask the little girl. Shang Xiaoxian had never seen such a big scene before. The Shang family was just a small family. In order to curry favor with the Taoist school, her family had forced her to follow this spoiled brat. Therefore, she was scared to tears. "I was walking on the road. Mr. Wuji pushed me and I bumped into this senior. I didn't do it on purpose. Woo woo." Shang Xiaoxian sobbed. Dao Kong's breath froze. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to be so arrogant. She had only been bumped into. Was there a need to be so aggressive? He even wanted to implicate his own family? Although the Taoist school was arrogant, they wouldn't bully others like this, right? Sir, the child did not do it on purpose. Is there a need to bully others like this? Dao Kong asked angrily. Boom. Yi Qinghan's reply was a kick in the air. It landed on Dao Kong's chest, and Dao Kong was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. The middle-aged man behind him was sent flying. Splurt! Dao Kong coughed up blood and fainted on the spot. If the Daoist school had not rushed forward to save him, he might not have been able to survive. Did it on purpose? Do you know what I was doing? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Cough, cough, cough. Dao Kong kept coughing up blood. His heart had almost been kicked out of his chest by Yi Qinghan's kick, and this was because Yi Qinghan had held back on purpose. Otherwise, that kick would have crushed him. The Daoist school members were angry, but they did not dare to say anything. They could only wait for the sage sect's elder to appear. It's you again. You've challenged the sage sect's rules time and time again. Do you really think that I won't dare to kill you? A figure shot out. His aura surged into the sky, and he locked onto Yi Qinghan from afar. It was the sage sect's third elder. The Daoist school members were overjoyed. They knew that they were saved this time. Chapter 904. The Daoists were elated, anticipating the arrival of Glory Sect's third elder. Yi Qinghan's anger would not dissipate so easily. This was an epiphany. A Master God-level epiphany. Kill me? Try me. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and the Spear of Time appeared in his hand. Third elder leaped into the air and appeared at the entrance of the Daoists. Looking at the Spear of Time, his eyes were filled with greed. After all, Chaos Giant celestial weapons were rare. They were the most precious treasures of the sects in the Chaos era. Back in the Chaos Divinity War, more than half of them were destroyed. Third Elder, you must seek justice for the Daoists. Our child had merely bumped into this evil man by accident. How dare he kill our entire race? That's right. Third Elder, Wuji had merely pushed the little girl from the Shang family by accident. Coincidentally, Shang Shaoxian bumped into him. He's too much. Not only did he kill our people, he even beat up Wuji. He's an inner sect disciple of Glory Sect. His actions are not giving Glory Sect any face at all. He even said that Glory Sect did not dare to do anything to him after he hit someone in Glory Sect. That's how arrogant he is. With the backing of Glory Sect's elder, some of the middle-aged Daoists glared at Yi Qinghan furiously. They could not wait to devour his flesh and chew on his bones. Third Elder was enraged. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he scolded, Yi Qinghan, you've gone too far. If not for your merit in reporting Xiongxinjiao, you wouldn't be alive right now. Not only are you ungrateful, you're even tarnishing Glory Sect's reputation. You shall not be spared. Yi Qinghan grinned. His spear pierced through Dao Wuji's shoulder blade and lifted him up. A surge of life force surged into his body. Dao Wuji woke up instantly. However, he regretted it the moment he woke up. He would rather have fainted. The pain he was experiencing was worse than death. I just so happened to have an epiphany while I was walking on the path of cultivation. An epiphany at the level of an overgod is something that only happens once in 10,000 years. This bastard actually pushed this little girl towards me on purpose, forcefully interrupting my epiphany. If it were you, wouldn't you wipe out his entire clan? Yi Qinghan's laughter was hair-raising, and his voice was bone-chilling. Third's face changed. What did a master-level epiphany mean? That was definitely a supreme opportunity for geniuses. It was more precious than any other treasures or treasures. Interrupting a Master God-level epiphany? Dao Wuji's Yi? Wuji? Wuji? Did the Daoists say that this B***starred is from your sage sect? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Definitely not. Wuji? Yi Qinghan? Sex? Sex? Sex Yi. This matter has nothing to do with Glory Sect. But, Yi Qinghan, you can't do it in the city. Otherwise, where will Glory Sect's face go? Third warned coldly. You can put it anywhere you want. If Dao Sect doesn't give me a satisfactory explanation today, I'll bury Dao Sect with my own hands. I'll go to Glory Sect and destroy the Dao God. Yi Qinghan replied sternly. The third elder's aura stagnated as he glared at Yi Qinghan. The two of them were at loggerheads with each other, and his killing intent began to rise. However, he wasn't confident that he could keep Yi Qinghan here, so he began to send a message to the other two elders. Yi Qinghan did not stop them. He had his own plans. He had already found the location of the treasure that he was drooling over. To think that it was in the auction house. If he wanted to get it, he would need Glory Sect's help. This was a good opportunity for him to demand an exorbitant price. Even if he had to bankrupt Dao Sect, he had to get that treasure. This was also the reason why Yi Qinghan had not killed anyone from Dao Sect up till now. The great elder of Glory Sect was still on alert. Knowing that Yi Qinghan and third elder had a conflict in Saint Land City, he immediately reported it to the primordial Dao God. Primordial Dao God hurriedly brought the other two elders to Saint Land City. Looking at the pitiful state of Dao Sect, his face changed slightly. After all, Dao God was his personal disciple. If something happened to Dao Sect, he would lose face as well. Brother Yi, you've just arrived. How did you get into a conflict with Dao Sect? Primordial Dao God frowned and asked. Yi Qinghan snorted and explained everything to him. He then asked for an explanation. No wonder Yi Qinghan was so angry. If his epiphany was interrupted, it would be strange if he didn't slaughter the entire Daoist faction. It was very likely that even the Saint Domain City would be implicated. The primeval Daoist heaven muttered to himself as he laughed bitterly. For now, Primordial Dao God and Dao God had not received any confirmation. Primordial Dao God did not want to fall out with Yi Qinghan. After all, if it was really the Serpent God, he would definitely need Yi Qinghan's help. If they fell out now, both sides would suffer. Brother Yi, this matter is indeed Dao Wuji's fault. Furthermore, it is unforgivable. I am partly responsible for not disciplining the citizens of Saint Land City. Please calm down. If possible, I hope that Dao Sect can make up for it. After all, even if we kill Dao Wuji now, we can't make up for it. Primordial Dao God said in a low voice. Seeing that even the Grandmaster of Glory Sect had compromised, Dao Kong's heart turned cold and his entire body trembled. Sir, if you have any requests, please state them. As long as it is within the means of Dao Sect, we will definitely not object. Dao Kong compromised and did not dare to argue anymore. Can your Dao Sect compensate for my epiphany? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Compensate? We can't afford it. Tomorrow, Saint Land City will hold a large-scale auction. You can choose a treasure from the auction. My sect is willing to spend all of our wealth to purchase it. Dao Kong said softly. Brother Yi, you don't have to make things difficult for them. I believe that after this matter, Dao Sect will definitely discipline their descendants well. Just teach them a lesson. I promise that if they can't afford the treasure you want tomorrow, I will pay for the rest. I guarantee that you will be satisfied. Is that okay? Primordial Dao God persuaded. Third Elder was extremely unwilling. He did not expect his Grandmaster to compromise with Yi Qinghan. However, he could not refute him and could only obey. Yi Qinghan snorted and tossed Dao Wuji back home. He said coldly, I will give Primordial Dao God some face today and see you at the auction tomorrow. Don't blame me for not reminding you. I don't have any good feelings towards Dao Sect right now. If you anger me again, I will definitely slaughter your entire clan. How would Dao Sect dare to refute? They could only accept it silently. Yi Qinghan left, but Shang Shaoxian did not dare to move. Dao Kong's embarrassment turned into anger. He vented all his anger on the Shang family. Just as he was about to grab Shang Shaoxian, he was stopped by Primordial Tao God. Trash, you still don't know how to wake up. Do you know how big of a mistake Dao Wuji has made? If not for Yi Qinghan giving me face, he would have destroyed Saint Land City. How much trouble do you want to cause before you grow a brain? Primordial Dao God scolded coldly. Dao Kong was so scared that his entire body turned soft. He knelt down and did not dare to raise his head. From today onwards, lock Dao Wuji up. Without my permission, if he dares to step out of Dao sect again, I will personally destroy your sect. Primordial Dao God gave the order. It was equivalent to a death sentence for betraying Dao Wuji. Ha ha ha, Cloud Sky City Lord, this is your first time in Saint City. Why don't you take a walk around? A powerful aura enveloped Saint City, not giving any face at all. Yi Qinghan frowned and looked up coldly. That expert was standing on his roof, and he was on the highest floor. Wasn't this going too far? Crack, the powerful chief god seemed to be doing it on purpose. He crushed a piece of roof tile, which made a crisp sound. Yi Qinghan had been in a bad mood for the entire day. This fellow was the classic example of someone who deserved a beating. Yi Qinghan stood up slowly and pulled out the Spear of Time, wanting to knock him down. Just then, Primordial Yuntian's voice was clearly unhappy as he said coldly, Go Chao, your Go family has a pretty good relationship with Glory Sect. Yet, you're taking the lead to not give me any face. Aren't you going overboard? The group of powerful beings outside roared with laughter. They were just here to watch the show. Who knew that Go Chao would actually sit on the roof and laugh evilly? Cloud Sky City Lord, you've misunderstood. Yours truly was worried that the other Taoists would ignore you. That's why I'm helping you out. Don't be ungrateful. With that, the Master Gods who were still roaming outside laughed even more brazenly. Primordial Yuntian was so angry that he could not speak. Yi Qinghan stepped out of his room and leaned on the balcony railing. He was only 3 to 4 meters away from Go Chao. His eyes shone with a cold glint as he said hoarsely, Are you going to scram on your own, or do you want me to crush your head? Go Chao looked like a middle-aged man in his 40s. He had eagle eyes, a flat nose, and a ferocious appearance. One look and one could tell that he was not a kind person. However, he was dressed in white, which was neither fish nor fowl. F***ck, what an ugly thing. Could it be that you're an ugly demon in human form? You've scared this divine bird to death. The divine bird crawled out and mocked without holding back. Ha 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 ha. This old man is dying of laughter. Ah ha 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 ha. With that, the Master Gods who were standing on top of the various inns laughed even more crazily. Previously, they were laughing at the Cloud Sky City Lord. Now, they were laughing at Go Chao. To think that the third most powerful being of the Go family would be threatened by a young man and even mocked by a feathered beast. Primordial Yuntian's mouth twitched as he laughed bitterly. To think that he would provoke yet another powerful being, and one with a bad temper. Brat, do you know who you're talking to? Go Chao's eagle eyes narrowed as he stood up and looked down at Yi Qinghan. Go Chao, a nameless junior. I've never heard of the Go family. I'm in a very bad mood today. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to get off my roof. Otherwise, I'll break your 5 limbs. Yi Qinghan said coldly. Go Chao's entire body trembled. Clearly, he was furious. Yi Qinghan flew up into the air and looked at Go Chao at the same level. However, his aura was getting stronger and stronger. His eyes contained a terrifying will. The might of a master god soared into the sky and moved the power of heaven and earth to press down on Go Chao. It was as if the sky was about to collapse and crush all living things. Xing Domain City was deathly silent. Go Chao was also unlucky. Normally, if he ran onto Yi Qinghan's roof and messed around, the most he could do was talk nicely and persuade him to leave. However, today Yi Qinghan was in a very bad mood. It could only be said that he had run into an iron wall. Go Chao's expression changed. Only then did he realize that Yi Qinghan's cultivation level was indeed impressive. He was on par with himself. Is that Yi Qinghan? I can't believe you've evaded the killer godpath's pursuit and come to the primitive saint stage. A voice rang out, revealing Yi Qinghan's origin. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He turned sideways and looked across the street. He saw a powerful lord. Although he did not recognize him, he could guess that he was from the Dragonline realm. Otherwise, he would not have known about his feud with the killer godpath, and even knew his name. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and tightened his grip on his spear. Waves of murderous intent emanated from him. Damn it! I can't believe there's someone from the Dragonline realm here. Won't my whereabouts be exposed to the killer godpath again? Yi Qinghan was secretly shocked. Those bastards from the killer godpath were as good as flies when it came to tracking. Not only that, but they were also too powerful. They were not to be trifled with now, especially now that the spatial overgod's persona had fallen to that of a half-step lord. It would be difficult for him to escape again. Their fighting spirits rose and fell. No one was afraid of the other. A great battle was about to break out. However, the lord across from him did not seem to want to fight Yi Qinghan to the death. After all, there was no deep-seated hatred between them. At the moment, he regretted calling out Yi Qinghan's name and revealing that he had a feud with the killer godpath. My friends, please do our glory sect a favor. Please don't start a conflict in the city. If there really is a feud, you can settle it after the auction is over. Our glory sect will not interfere. Primeval Cloud Heaven stepped in to smooth things over again. He did not want this group of powerful lords to cause a ruckus in the city. Yi Qinghan tightened his grip on his spear and glared coldly at Go Chao. He said in a deep voice, "Are you going to scram or not?" Chapter 906. Go Chao's cold glare was enough to send shivers down one's spine. Unfortunately, he was looking at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan glared back at him with an even more terrifying gaze, filled with battle intent. Go Chao had no confidence in his heart. Coupled with the fact that Yi Qinghan's weapon was emitting a chaotic aura, he was even more unwilling to make a move before figuring out his background. However, he did not want to lose face either. He could not help but say coldly, "Kid, give Glory Sect some face today. After the auction ends and we leave Saint City, I'll make you kneel on the ground and call me Grandpa. Just based on that sentence of yours, you're dead meat. I'll wait for you after the auction." Yi Qinghan replied coldly. "The one who runs early is the grandson." The divine bird added on. Go Chao was enraged. He glared at the divine bird with killing intent before turning around and leaving. Soon, all the master gods retreated. However, they all went to look for the master god of the Dragonline realm. "Brother Su Li, you said that person was Yi Qinghan. Could it be that you guys know each other?" An old man looked at the master god of the Dragonline realm and asked curiously. Su Li, the master god of the Su family, had some connections with the revered heavens auction. After receiving the notice, he specially brought along a large amount of wealth to purchase supreme treasures. Naturally, his cultivation was strong. Otherwise, the Su family would not have trusted him. Su Li looked at the 7 or 8 master gods behind him. All of them wanted to find out more about Yi Qinghan. However, he did not want to offend Yi Qinghan too much. After all, he was a monster who had escaped from the god-slaying sect and destroyed the 6 gods Dao sect. He was definitely not to be trifled with. Brothers, this person is vicious and not to be trifled with. I advise you guys to stay away from him. I can't say much about him. There's no need to bring a huge enemy to the Su family. Su Li said calmly. Since when has brother Su Li cared about a junior? Look at his cultivation realm. He's just a beginner master god. Is there a need to be so cautious? The heavenly demon of the demonic sky plane, venerable tyrannical bear, said in disdain. This ferocious bear knight was a monster that had taken human form. He possessed boundless strength and could borrow the power of the earth. He was also known as the son of the earth. On the surface, there was no over-god that dared to provoke him. They were purely looking for a beating. There were very few fae that could transform into chief god. However, every single one of them was definitely one of the best among the chief gods. He naturally had the right to look down on Yi Qinghan. Sigh. The main thing is that he's a vengeful person. In any case, if you offend him, he'll pursue you relentlessly. If he can't beat you, he'll run away. When you retreat, he'll come back and continue to fight. He has no moral integrity and no dignity of an expert. The dignified Six Gods Tao sect was torn apart by him. Why would we provoke such a person for no reason? Su Li smiled bitterly. The matter of Yi Qinghan was quite legendary in the Dragonline plane. However, the general reason was correct. It was because the Six Gods Tao sect and Yi Qinghan had targeted Yi Qinghan as a gift. In the end, they failed to kill him. This caused Yi Qinghan to hate the two most powerful forces in the Dragonline plane. However, there were all sorts of reasons as to why Yi Qinghan hated the Dragonline plane and the Six Gods Tao sect. Some said that Yi Qinghan was dissatisfied with the Six Gods Tao sect and the God-slaying path looking down on him and had targeted them as a gift. That was why he had helped Long Zai deal with the Six Gods Tao sect. He had pursued Taoist Lu Kong and provoked the God-slaying path in all sorts of ways. He had even left a line of words outside Qianxi City to provoke over-god Ling Tian. In short, all sorts of strange reasons could be summed up. It was that Yi Qinghan was vengeful. He was cruel to his enemies and would not give up until he achieved his goal. Some people even said that it was better to provoke the King of Hell than to provoke Yi Qinghan. Moreover, this person's murderous nature is too strong. He seems to be called the God-slaying god. I have seen him fight once in a video. He really lives up to his reputation. That's all I have to say. If you want to fight, don't bring me along. After Su Li finished speaking, he shook his head and left. Go Chao followed behind. He had a general understanding of Yi Qinghan's temperament. He knew that if he wanted to kill Yi Qinghan, he definitely wouldn't be enough. Even if he could defeat Yi Qinghan, he would need to have an absolute advantage. Otherwise, if Yi Qinghan wanted to escape, no one would be able to stop him. It was very, very difficult for overgods to kill their opponents completely. When Yi Qinghan returned to his room, he did not think too much about it. After a night's sleep and adjusting his condition, he got up and washed up. When he opened the window to take a look, he realized that the lords who had shown up were not the only ones in the city. There were also some low-key powerhouses who were unwilling to show themselves at all. There were many half-step lords as well. Although they did not participate in the fight for the true ultimate treasures, they were more than happy to fight for the defective treasures that the lords looked down on or were unwilling to purchase at a high price. Most of the pedestrians on the streets were walking toward the city center. There were stalls set up on both sides of the streets, selling miscellaneous items. There was no lack of decent treasures. It all depended on whose luck was better. Unfortunately, they had picked the wrong target. The lords and half-step lords' target was clearly the auction. Why would they care about these street stalls? Even if there were true treasures, they could not sell them at a high price. The lords might not be generous. The revered Heaven Auction House had 5 floors. It was a ring-shaped building that could seat at least tens of thousands of people. Hundreds of thousands of treasures were sold every year. It made a lot of money every day and it was filthy rich. The Lord of the Chaos Giant God's Godhead was personally overseeing the place. Even Glory Sect's sect master would not dare to behave atrociously here. At most, they would treat each other as equals, let alone others. The lords who were arrogant and domineering outside became much more well-behaved as soon as they entered the revered Heaven Auction House. Glory Sek's sect master, primeval Taoist god, brought the 3 grand elders to Yi Qinghan's inn. They did not say anything. As the host, it was impossible for them not to find out where Yi Qinghan was staying. Yi Qinghan got down from the inn and gestured for primeval Taoist god to walk in front. The Taoists walked over as well. They kept their heads down and did not dare to say anything. They had gone to the auction house today purely to pay their bills. In order to satisfy Yi Qinghan, they had borrowed an unknown amount of money from last night. It was estimated that it would take them thousands of years to repay the debt. Yi Qinghan and the others did not say anything as they walked into the auction house. Glory Sect had their own private room. Yi Qinghan did not follow them in. Instead, he found a random seat in the main hall and sat down. Dao Kong chose to sit near Yi Qinghan so that it would be convenient for him to purchase an utmost treasure. Although it was just one item, it made him feel uneasy. An item that a lord would take a fancy to would definitely be of a high price. Most of the people in the main hall were half-step lords. Of course, there were also some young talents from big family clans or sects who came in to watch the fun. All the lords had their own private rooms. Yi Qinghan leaned back in his chair and supported his head with his right hand. Looking at the auction stage, he closed his eyes and tried to sense the aura of the utmost treasure that he had sensed earlier. However, he could not find it anymore. He could not help but feel anxious, wondering if that utmost treasure was an item for auction. "Hey, Senior, what a coincidence! You're here at the auction as well." A crisp voice rang out in Yi Qinghan's ears. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes and took a look. To his surprise, it was Ling and a few of her close friends. He nodded and said, "Yes, I'm here to join in the fun and see if there are any treasures that I can use." "Senior, can we sit next to you?" Ling looked at Yi Qinghan with admiration in her eyes. She was so excited that her chest heaved up and down. Yi Qinghan nodded and did not refuse. The few young female cultivators sat down excitedly as well. They sat next to Yi Qinghan in a row. "Senior, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, I might have been in deep trouble. I didn't think that a single word from you would be a blessing in disguise." Ling smiled faintly, revealing a row of white teeth. She was very cute. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and fell silent. Chapter 907. Yi Qinghan didn't want to say much. He just watched quietly, wondering whether the treasure that had attracted him would be sold or not. The divine bird could confirm that the item was still in the auction house, but it was tightly sealed. Yi Qinghan breathed a sigh of relief. The auction this time seemed to be extremely grand. It was definitely an ultimate treasure of the same rank. It included a wide range of grades, ranging from emperor level to lord level. Most of them were lord level and half-step lord level. The auctioneer was a top-quality woman. This was just a way for the auction house to prompt transactions. No matter what level a man's cultivation was at, he wouldn't have much immunity to top-quality women. Isn't auctioneer Lan Yao pretty? She's the most beautiful woman in Saint Territory. If only I had half of her charm, Ling whispered to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan grinned. He had almost zero resistance to this kind of pure woman. Although Ling's cultivation was poor, she was kind. He looked at auctioneer Lan Yao. Her breasts were full, and her legs were perky. Her face was indeed top quality. In fact, her main charm came from her womanly charm. She could understand what a man wanted, and what he wanted with just one look. "Stay kind. You'll be much happier than her," Yi Qinghan reminded her calmly. Lan Yao looked glamorous, but it wasn't as easy as people imagined. This kind of woman relied on her appearance. She was ultimately weak. Once a super powerhouse took a fancy to her, she would become nothing more than a plaything. Ling nodded. However, she still yearned for Lan Yao's glamorous life. Wherever she went, all men would submit to her. However, when she looked at Yi Qinghan, it seemed like he wasn't looking at Lan Yao. Even when he was looking at Lan Yao, there was no desire or greed in his eyes. It was just pure admiration. She couldn't help but be curious about this man. The next auction item is a chaotic heavenly pill, an exclusive product of the revered Sky Auction House. It's at God level. If you have a genius in your family, you might as well buy it and nurture him. The starting price is 10,000 supreme-grade divine crystals each. There will be a total of 10 pills. Each bid must not be lower than 1,000 supreme-grade divine crystals. Lan Yao's crisp voice rang out in the auction house. Wow! The Chaos Heavenly Pill can allow an intermediate god to break through to the high god level and expand one's godhood to the limit. It's definitely something good. Every year, only 10 of them are sold at the auction house, and each time, the price will always drive people to despair. Ling Er's eyes shone, and she excitedly clenched her fists. Yi Qinghan looked at the jade bottle in Lan Yao's hand. There were 10 purplish gold pills in the bottle. Those must be Chaos Heavenly Pills. To half-step lords or lords, these pills were nothing. However, they could be used if they wanted to nurture their juniors. An exalted god who had taken the chaotic heavenly pill would definitely be able to kill most experts of the same level. Even a mortal body could surpass a special constitution. The starting price was 10,000 top-grade divine crystals each. If sold in bottles, each bottle would cost at least 100,000 top-grade divine crystals. However, Yi Qinghan did not have much of an understanding of divine crystals. Back then, he had dug up tens of millions of top-grade divine crystals from the tomb of the gods, and he had kept half of them with him. He was definitely a walking tycoon. I bid 110,000, 130,000, 150,000. In an instant, at least a dozen people called out bid. However, before they could even finish speaking, someone else had already called out the bid. Those who dared to call out bids were definitely from major sections. In fact, they were super major sections. After all, those sects had a deep foundation and many genius disciples. Even Glory's sect had joined in the bidding. 200,000. Yi Qinghan's voice was low and slow. It rang out in the hall, shocking the group of people. A treasure of this level was not something that the people in the hall could afford. They were all from middle-class clans. Although they coveted the Chaos Heavenly Pills, they could only watch. They did not dare to make a move. Dao Kong was stunned, and his face immediately lit up with joy. For such a supreme-grade treasure, even if the Taoist sect went bankrupt and borrowed some money, they could still get it. However, he was afraid that if Yi Qinghan were to auction off a lord-level true treasure, he would probably only be able to cry. However, he had misunderstood Yi Qinghan. How could he let the Taoist sect off so easily? It was rare to see someone raise the price by 50,000 in one go, and it attracted the attention of many lords. When they took a closer look, they recognized Yi Qinghan. Last night, he had shocked Go Chao so much that he did not dare to make a move. 201,000 supreme-grade crystals. The Go family will take this medicinal pill. When Go Chao saw that it was Yi Qinghan, his expression darkened and he said coldly. The crowd instantly stopped bidding and watched the show. In any case, the two of them would definitely not let go of the item. Yi Qinghan cast an indifferent glance at Go Chao's booth, then put on a fake smile and called out a second bid. 300,000. 301,000. Go Chao seemed to be at odds with Yi Qinghan. Every time he raised the price by 1,000 supreme-grade god crystals, he was clearly provoking him. These were supreme-grade god crystals. Even 10,000 was not a small sum, let alone 300,000. In the past, the highest price was only 200,000. Ling stared at Yi Qinghan with a dumbfounded expression. He was willing to spend so many god crystals to buy the chaos heavenly pills. Just how rich was he? Dao Kong hated Go Chao to the core. That old bastard was trying to kill the Taoist sect. 1,000,000. Yi Qinghan pretended to be angry and said furiously. Dao Kong's face turned the color of a pig's liver. 1,000,000 supreme-grade god crystals? That was killing the Taoist sect. Go Chao did not even think about it. He directly called out 1,001,000. The divine bird grunted and said disdainfully, "This idiot. Did his brain get squeezed by a door?" Yi Qinghan smiled and said calmly, "Since the Go family is taking care of the auction house's business, then I will fulfill your wish and stop bidding." Go Chao's expression changed, and he almost fell to the ground. 1,000,000 supreme-grade god crystals to buy a divine tier heavenly pill? Unless his brain got squeezed by a door. That was not worth it at all. Go Chao rushed out of the booth and roared at Yi Qinghan, "You King tricked me?" Yi Qinghan said disdainfully and coldly, "That's right, you idiot. Even my little pet could tell that your brain got squeezed by a door, and your Go family actually let you out. The head of the Go family must have gotten his brains squeezed by a door too, right?" Boom. Ha 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 ha. The auction house was in an uproar, and everyone burst into laughter. The master gods were laughing the happiest. Their cultivation was stagnant, and they did not have much fun. Only jokes made by people of the same level could make them laugh. The three elders of the sage sect and the primeval Taoist god did not laugh. Instead, they looked at Yi Qinghan. They realized that Yi Qinghan's personality was really vicious. He had cheated Go Chao of 1,000,000 supreme-grade god crystals in one go. It was probably unrealistic for the Go family to compete for other treasures. Go Chao was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Everyone had to be more honest in the revered Heaven auction house. Dao Kong let out a breath of turbid air and patted his chest. He was shocked by Yi Qinghan's generosity. "Is there anyone else who wants to bid higher?" Lan Yao had a hard time holding back her laughter. She knew that no one would offer a higher price, but she still asked the same question again. "If no one else wants to bid, then this treasure will belong to the Go family in booth number 12. Lan Yao looked at the crowd, who were laughing like crazy. She could not help but look at Yi Qinghan with a smile on her face to express her gratitude. Go Chao felt extremely pained. He had no choice but to hand over 1,000,000 supreme-grade god crystals. The Go family's wealth had been halved in an instant. He could not help but stare at Yi Qinghan angrily, and his killing intent soared. Yi Qinghan pretended not to see anything. He continued to look at the auction stage quietly, waiting for the next treasure to appear. Chapter 908. The noisy auction house finally quieted down. Even the dignified primal chaos god did not appear to stop them. Yi Qinghan leaned on his chair and was extremely quiet. Against such a fool, the divine bird could kill him instantly. It was not much of a challenge at all. After that, several more treasures were brought out. Yi Qinghan bid every time, and after raising the price, he would stop talking. This made some of the main gods quite angry, and they all cursed Yi Qinghan for being a dead man hired by the revered Heaven's auction house. Yi Qinghan smiled but did not say anything. Lan Yao had a charming look on her face because Yi Qinghan's random bids had earned her a lot of dividends. After Yi Qinghan made a ruckus, the divine bird followed suit. The two of them seemed to be randomly raising the price, but in reality, they were laying the groundwork for the treasures that would follow. Their actions were both fake and real, and no one knew what their true goal was. Ling and the girls beside her looked at Yi Qinghan with admiration. They were all sweating for him. If no one else bid, wouldn't they all rot in his hands? How many divine crystals did he have to waste like this? "Aren't you afraid that no one will continue bidding?" Ling Zier asked curiously. "If I buy something that I don't need, I'll give it to you," Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Ling stuck out her tongue. The lowest price of something that could be sold here was 10,000 divine crystals. It was enough to bankrupt the Z clan. Giving it away just like that? Did he think she was a 3-year-old child? Liar. Ling snickered. Although she knew that it was impossible, she still did not blame Yi Qinghan. The eyes of the mid-tier families in the hall were wide open. They really wanted the Heaven Star space. This divine artifact was at most half-step Lord level. There were no Lord level ones. Otherwise, the Lord level ones would definitely fight for it. The starting price is 50,000 divine crystals. Every bid must be no less than 5,000 divine crystals, Lan Yao continued. 100,000. Before someone could bid, Yi Qinghan raised the price to 100,000 in one go. The people in the hall looked at each other. The lords in the private room could not be bothered to fight with Yi Qinghan. No one knew at what price this fellow would choose to stop bidding. Even powerful lords would not be willing to pay more than 100,000 divine crystals for battle aura. The people in the hall dared not fight with Yi Qinghan, and the lords were unwilling to do so. As a result, the price remained stagnant. In terms of actual price, the Heaven Star space was worth 120 to 30,000 divine crystals. However, no one made a bid now. Yi Qinghan was stunned where he was. He had not expected everyone to be so straightforward this time and stop bidding at the same time. Dao Kong was extremely excited. He secretly shouted, "Announce the successful bid! Ha! 100,000 divine crystals. Taoists can still afford it." Lan Yao smiled. He asked 3 times, but no one made a bid. He then announced that the Heaven Star space belonged to Yi Qinghan. A middle-aged man walked out from behind the auction stage. He was a half-step lord, and he walked over with a brocade box. "Sir, I'll pay the bill. Don't worry, leave it to me," Dao Kong said obsequiously. "Get lost." Yi Qinghan was speechless. This old man was dreaming if he wanted to use 100,000 divine crystals to appease his anger. Dao Kong was speechless. He had no idea what Yi Qinghan was trying to do. Yi Qinghan extended his hand to touch the ring and pass the 100,000 divine crystals to the middle-aged man. He then casually tossed the brocade box to Ling. The crowd could not help but laugh at him. It seemed that Yi Qinghan was giving the item to the little beauty as a gift to please her. Yi Qinghan really had no intention of bidding for the item. Instead, he had deliberately made a bid so that it would be easier for him to auction off his target later on. However, no one made a bid this time. He did not expect that this group of old foxes would not want to fight at all. Ling held the brocade box and stood where she was, stunned. Her hands began to tremble. "Senior, you." For a moment, Ling did not know what to say or what to ask. "I'll give it to you," Yi Qinghan replied snappily. "It's too valuable. I'm afraid that someone will snatch it away." Ling really did not dare to accept it. Even a half-step Lord God would want this item, let alone a medium god like her. However, treasures should be obtained by the strong. If she did not have the ability to keep it, she would be asking for trouble. "Since Senior is giving it to you, then accept it. With me around, who would dare to snatch it away?" Just then, the primitive Tao God said calmly. With the primitive Tao God backing her, Ling looked at Yi Qinghan. It seemed that he really did not care about this treasure. She hugged the brocade box tightly to her chest, afraid that it would disappear. The female cultivators around Ling looked at her with envy and jealousy. They only regretted that they had not been the ones to catch the hidden weapon. Otherwise, they would have gotten a bargain for nothing today. In Glory Sec's box, the 3 elders were shocked. They did not understand what Yi Qinghan was trying to do. He's paving the way for a treasure in the later stages. I'm afraid that item is not something that Taoists can buy. Therefore, he wants to save some money and buy it at the lowest price. Who would have thought that he would end up with the Big Dipper space in his hands? The primitive Tao God said calmly as he sealed the box. This kid is really cunning. We can't see through his trump cards at all. The three elders could not help but look at Yi Qinghan with caution in their eyes. He is indeed cunning. The primitive Tao god nodded. Just then, Yi Qinghan's blood vessels surged as he looked at the back of the auction stage in surprise. His eyes were filled with joy as he whispered, "I've found a treasure. Although it's not what I'm looking for, it's definitely something that I want. It's the light element. Back then, we tried to ask Medusa for it but failed. However, the light element this time seems to be even purer and denser than before," the divine bird said with certainty. Yi Qinghan's blood and qi started to swell. However, his expression was extremely calm, without the slightest bit of excitement. The next auction item is the pure sunlight element. It represents the law of light and the life element. It can kill all filthy and evil things in the world. There is no need for this little girl to explain. Everyone will naturally understand. I won't say much. There is no starting price. The highest bidder wins. Lan Yao waved her hand, and someone behind her handed over a jade bottle. Inside the bottle was a fist-sized glowing gaseous substance. Even though it was sealed, it still gave people a warm feeling. Even the Limit Realm Masters were excited, as if they had seen a ray of hope. Everyone in Glory Sect was excited. This item was the treasure of a Master God. It could restore the vitality of a Master God. Although it was not rejuvenation, it could increase the lifespan of a Master God by at least 10,000 years. 10,000 years was a long history. It was just a number, but it was enough to nurture a super civilization. Chapter 909. Pure sunlight element represented extreme yang. It was pure, and there was no filth that could resist it. It could save one's life, and it could cause one's physical body to transform. There was even a chance for one's physical body to become a saint. Yi Qinghan's physical body had almost reached the level of a chief god's. With pure sunlight element, he could completely turn his physical body into a chief god's body. He would be able to fight against the Chaos Giant God as a chief god, and normal chief god artifacts would be no more than a pile of scrap metal in his hands. He had to get it. A cold light flashed in Yi Qinghan's eyes. Even if he had to waste all of his supreme-grade god crystals, he had to get this ball of pure sunlight element. Yi Qinghan did not know how much it was worth, so he did not say anything. If the price was too high, others would know that it was his target, and wouldn't they fight over it? All the chief gods fell silent. No one was willing to speak. After a long while, the divine bird stretched lazily and said arrogantly, "Since no one wants to speak, I'll throw a brick to attract jade. I'll bid 2 million supreme-grade god crystals." 2 million supreme-grade god crystals right off the bat caused everyone in the hall to feel numb. Ling was dumbfounded. Only now did she understand that there was a rich man sitting next to her. No wonder he did not care about the Tiangang space, which was worth 100,000 supreme-grade god crystals, and had casually tossed it to her. "Humph. I suspect that this person and that despicable bird don't have that many supreme-grade god crystals. If they intentionally raise the price, won't we have to pay a lot more god crystals?" Go Chao was extremely displeased with Yi Qinghan, and he walked out of the private room and said coldly, "You don't have to worry about that. If you can afford it, then bid. If you can't, then scram. I'll wait for you outside the city later," Yi Qinghan replied coldly. Go Chao was furious. He did not expect to be played by Yi Qinghan again and again. He could not stand it. "What kind of bird are you? Idiot, if you have the guts, then add 1,000 god crystals. Perhaps I'll let you have it," the divine bird replied arrogantly. The sage sect members fell silent, because they also wanted to bid for this item. Dao Kong's expression changed. How could the Taoists afford this item? Even if they sold all their women as slaves and all their men to mine, they would not be able to pay it back. "Sir, Dao Kong shuddered as he stared at Yi Qinghan. His despairing eyes were incredibly pitiful. Yi Qinghan ignored him and continued to wait for the crowd to call out their bids. He was also thinking about what price he should call out to make everyone back off. Fellow Taoist Yi, I'm very sorry, but this light element is of great use to my sect. Forgive this old man for not being able to part with it, the primeval Taoist god said in a deep voice. 2,500,000. But in the blink of an eye, the sky demon Violent Bear brushed past him. 3.5 million. My heavenly Fey lineage is taking this light element for sure. Wild Bear stood up and walked out of the private room. His entire body erupted with a power that caused even main gods to feel fear, as if anyone who dared to fight with him was an enemy. 4 million. My Pan clan is also taking it. Another voice rang out. It was an old voice that seemed to have come from the primal chaos era. The imposing aura it exuded was so imposing that no one dared to go against it. What? People of the Pan clan? Are they still carrying on the legacy? Heavens, is there really a Pan clan? I thought it was just a rumor. At this moment, the people who were exclaiming were not from the small clans, but the main gods. Powerful main gods. Even they were so shocked by the Pan clan, one could see how terrifying their origins were. Yi Qinghan frowned as he recalled the secret history of the primal chaos era. He searched for the origins of the Pan clan. The Panga Holy Man was a supreme being from the primal chaos era. He was an existence that even the leaders of the two great factions had to respectfully address as elder brother. He was a true overgod and also the oldest existence. Some people said that he was the one who split open the primal chaos era, and that he was also the one who gave birth to the gods. He had never acknowledged his birth, only that he was born in the primal chaos era, and that the heavens and earth existed when he appeared. The Panga Holy Man and the Jiuxuan Divine Maiden dual cultivated and gave birth to a child, who passed down countless divine arts and the profound mysteries of the Great Tao. He also explained the Great Tao of Samsara and the harmony of Yin and Yang. In the past, the Pan clan was an existence that surpassed all other powers, and was the place where the gods stopped fighting. But before the War of the Gods, when the Panga Holy Man and the Jiuxuan Divine Maiden joined forces to explore the primal chaos era and explore the universe that nurtured the giant gods, the two of them quietly vanished, and the life tablets they left behind in the Pan clan shattered. No one knew how they died. Only then did the giant gods realize that they were not omnipotent and that they could die. This caused some people to yearn for eternal life, which then led to the War of the Gods. From then on, the primal chaos era was no longer a pure land. In the later stages of the War of the Gods, the Pan clan was also drawn into the war. They suffered countless casualties, but they were also able to influence the outcome of the war. In the end, both sides suffered great losses, and the Pan clan vanished without a trace. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. He raised his head and looked at one of the private rooms. He wondered if this person was really from the Pan clan. Even if he was, his bloodline wouldn't be very pure. It was very likely that he was from a side branch. The revered Heaven Auction House clearly did not expect that someone from the Pan clan would appear, and they were even more suspicious of this person's origins. After all, the Pan clan was far too powerful. A true primal chaos god would understand that this family was not to be trifled with. Just as everyone was silent, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice, 8 million. Hiss, everyone gasped. They did not expect Yi Qinghan to double the price in one go. 9 million. Yi Qinghan's bid triggered yet another round of bidding. The celestial Violent Bear represented the celestial Fey lineage. The other shape-shifting sovereigns were all very united. Some of their deity crystals and primal chaos mana were still alive. It was just that the primal chaos mana would not be released. Even so, 9 million was still a terrifying number. 15 million. Yi Qinghan quickly increased the price. Furthermore, he surpassed Dao Kong by a large margin, and no one knew just how strong he was. Dao Kong fainted from fright and collapsed to the ground. His heart could not take it at all. The air became slightly stagnant, making it difficult for everyone to breathe. The overgods who wanted to participate hesitated slightly, and even the person from the Pan clan hesitated. Yi Qinghan could not help but nod. He was certain that this person was definitely not a direct descendant of the Pan clan, or he would not care about 9 million supreme-grade divine crystals. The others hesitated, not because they could not afford this price, but because they did not understand whether Yi Qinghan really wanted to cause trouble. If he caused trouble and suddenly raised the price to such a level, then when others increased the price, he would suddenly stop bidding. No one would be able to take it. Yi Qinghan, don't cause trouble. If you don't want to buy, then shut up. The heavenly demon Violent Bear scolded angrily. Aren't I bidding? Why aren't I buying? If I can't afford your price, then I'll naturally stop bidding, Yi Qinghan said calmly. No one knew just how strong Yi Qinghan was, nor did they know what the highest limit he could afford was. They also did not know just how many supreme-grade divine crystals he had. His unrestrained and sloppy attitude made them feel uneasy. Yi Qinghan was also feeling uneasy. It was definitely impossible to rely on the school of Taoism. He only had around 20 million supreme-grade divine crystals, and with the primal chaos divine origin, that would only be equivalent to 30 million supreme-grade divine crystals. As for high-grade divine crystals, even if he piled them up into a mountain, they would only be worth a few supreme-grade divine crystals. Yi Qinghan's target was not just the pure sunlight element, but also the unknown supreme treasure. That was what he truly wanted, a supreme treasure that could allow him to enter a state of enlightenment. It was far more valuable than the light element. Chapter 9-10. 15 million supreme-grade god crystals was a terrifying number. Even if the sage sect could take out such a sum, the sect's foundation would be reduced by 90%. It would be difficult for them to withstand another huge battle. Sects and families would not risk their lives so much to bet their entire sect's inheritance on a single supreme treasure. The lifespan of the heavenly demons was much longer than that of the human race. Naturally, they would not risk their lives. Go Chao and the others wanted to disgust Yi Qinghan and raise the price even higher. However, they were afraid that the supreme treasure would be wasted in their hands. If that were the case, their sects and families would be harmed instead. The gains would not make up for the losses. Yi Qinghan's nonchalant expression made it even harder for others to fathom his thoughts. Young man, are you sure you have 15 million supreme-grade god crystals? My reverend heaven's auction house is not a place for you to bid recklessly. At this moment, a black-robed man with a bamboo hat walked out from the back of the auction house. Although his face could not be seen, the primal chaos aura around him was enough to show his attitude. He was the primal chaos god. Of course, he was not a true primal chaos god from the primal chaos era. He was just a primal chaos god lattice. Yi Qinghan chuckled and replied calmly, "Senior, you don't have to worry. Since I dared to bid, I would not care about these measly amount of god crystals. Didn't you see that I threw away the item that I bought with 100,000 supreme-grade god crystals to coax a little girl?" Many master gods were enraged. This was even more disgusting than eating a fly. "Dao friend, don't worry. If Dao friend Yi lacks some supreme-grade god crystals, my sage sect is willing to pay 20%. Primitive Dao god walked out of the box with a flash of light. Yi Qinghan snorted coldly in his heart. He knew what Primitive Dao God was trying to do. Primitive Dao God wanted to get a share of the profits and obtain some pure sunlight element. However, that would depend on how much he had left. Moreover, if the god crystals in his hands were enough to buy that unknown treasure, Sage Sect would not be able to snatch it away from him. That primal chaos god nodded and signaled for Lan Yao to continue the auction. Is there anyone else who wants to bid? Lan Yao was a little nervous. At first, he thought that Yi Qinghan was trying to get on his good side by raising the price. However, it seemed like he was overthinking it. 15 million supreme-grade god crystals. This was the highest price for a single supreme treasure in the history of the sage sect. How could Lan Yao not be excited? 15 million going once, 15 million going twice. 3 deals. Lan Yao's fingertips trembled as he hammered down the hammer. For the third time, he didn't even ask clearly before deciding the price. Wait, Sky Demon Violent Bear wanted to stop Blue Demon at the last moment, but Blue Demon didn't ask a third time. Lan Yao, what are you doing? Why didn't you ask a third time? Sky Demon Violent Bear reprimanded angrily. Lan Yao swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He hadn't expected that someone would really try to make things difficult for him. For a moment, he felt helpless and speechless. Since the final decision had been made, wouldn't it be breaking the rules of the auction house if he went back on his word? I say, fellow Taoist in human form, are you half as smart or are you doing this on purpose? Question. You didn't bid the first time and you didn't bid the second time. When the hammer struck, you came out to make things difficult for this noble and beautiful goddess. Are you trying to take advantage of her or are you deliberately provoking the revered heaven auction house? Yi Qinghan's eyes shone brightly. He clearly wasn't willing to give away the treasure he had just obtained. He immediately spoke up to help Blue Demon. Brat, shouting 3 times is the rule. Don't annoy this Grandpa Bear, or else I'll crush you to death. Sky Demon Violent Bear angrily shouted. Yi Qinghan smiled and stood up. He lazily said, whether you can crush me to death or not, we can talk about that later. Right now, I only want to ask you, since when did the revered heaven auction house set a rule that the highest bid must be shouted 3 times? I've participated in so many auctions. When have I not shouted 3 times? Sky Demon Violent Bear angrily retorted. That's right. Everyone has to shout 3 times. If this isn't a rule, then what is? This price clearly doesn't count. Go Chao took advantage of this opportunity to give Sky Demon Violent Bear a hard time. He wanted to make things difficult for Yi Qinghan. You're just an idiot pretending to understand. Ever since the beginning of chaos, there have only been 3 rules for auctioneers: fairness, impartiality, and no inducements to customers. There has never been a written rule stating that the auctioneer has to ask 3 times if someone is willing to bid a higher price. This is just a habit that everyone has formed. It's also an unwritten rule that gives the bidder more time to think. It's not mandatory. Fellow Taoist Blue Demon didn't do anything wrong. Therefore, this auction price is absolutely valid. Yi Qinghan coldly said. Blue Demon bitterly smiled and whispered, this is indeed not a written rule. Moreover, I also shouted 3 times. Blue Demon was also a little unconfident. Her third shout was a little substandard. Perhaps she was too excited. If she had shouted the full price, then perhaps there wouldn't be so much trouble. Alright, since the hammer has already been hammered, my revered Heaven's auction house will not bully our customers. We know that fellow Taoist Violent Bear will bid a higher price, but my auction house will not profit from this unprincipled divine crystal. This is out of respect for every fellow Taoist. I hope that everyone can understand. The auction house's Chaos Giant God said in a deep voice. Sky Demon Violent Bear was unwilling to give up. He wanted to continue arguing, but the Chaos Giant God had already personally delivered the jade bottle to Yi Qinghan. All he could do was vent his anger on Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan connected his yin and yang ring. 15 million divine crystals, no more, no less. He handed it all to the Chaos Giant God. He opened the jade bottle and smelled it. Then, he sealed it completely. With a shake of his hand, the jade bottle disappeared. Confirmed. The transaction is successful, the Chaos Giant God said indifferently. Yi Qinghan smiled in return. Then, he asked, I wonder if the revered Heaven's auction house will accept this kid's treasure for auction? As long as it's a real treasure, my auction house will naturally accept it. However, we will take 1,000th of the profits, the Chaos Giant God replied. Yi Qinghan nodded and slowly sat down. He stared at the divine bird with greedy eyes and asked with a smile, You've hidden a lot of things all these years. I didn't even ask about their origins. Take out a few items for the auction house to auction. When I buy that treasure, I'll return them to you in the future. The divine bird trembled. It glared at Yi Qinghan angrily and said angrily, That's mine. I know it's yours. However, you've hidden it for so long without using it. It's a pure waste. Why don't you take it out and let me buy some other useful things? At most, I'll agree to 3 of your conditions. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He looked at the stingy divine bird and comforted it helplessly. This is a critical moment. Don't be stingy. When I become strong, I'll catch a divine phoenix to be your wife. For real? The divine bird's eyes lit up. If it could catch a phoenix that was on par with the Chaos Giant Dragon as its wife, it would be much more awesome than its father. I guarantee it 10,000 times. You can choose from the 4 sacred beasts and the 2 supreme divine beasts. Yi Qinghan said solemnly. I'm not interested in other things. I only want the divine phoenix to be my wife. What if it doesn't agree and I can't beat it? The divine bird said hesitantly. I'll hold it down while you force yourself on it. As the saying goes, if you marry a chicken, follow the chicken. If you marry a dog, follow the dog. If you marry a divine bird, it naturally has to follow, right? Yi Qinghan was very shameless. He secretly sent a voice transmission. If the divine phoenix found out, it would definitely burn this pair of weirdos alive. Chapter 9:11. The divine bird reluctantly handed over 7 or 8 treasures from its Qian Kuan ring. Yi Qinghan could not recognize a single one of them. They were of all shapes and sizes and looked strange. He doubted whether they were really valuable. Are you sure these are real treasures? I need a large amount of supreme-grade divine crystals and even divine roots. Don't try to fool me. Yi Qinghan frowned. The divine bird was furious. It did not bother to transmit its voice and shouted, You can doubt my bird's taste, but you can't doubt my ability. Everyone was speechless as they looked down at the divine bird, watching it roar hysterically. This was the first time they had seen a spirit pet dare to roar so angrily at its master. They couldn't help but be speechless at Yi Qinghan's pair of weirdos, but they also developed a strong interest in them. Yi Qinghan shrugged and quickly comforted it. Don't be angry, don't be angry. I was just asking a question. Humph. The divine bird snorted and ignored Yi Qinghan. Zilinger was amused by the divine bird. She reached out to tease the divine bird but was scolded by the divine bird. Little brat, don't touch me. I am the divine emperor of all beasts. How can I be blasphemed by you mere mortals? The divine bird said angrily. Zilinger quickly retracted her hand and smiled awkwardly. Don't lower yourself to its level. Hold it first. I'm going to sell some things. Yi Qinghan unceremoniously pulled the divine bird off his shoulder and threw it to Zilinger. You ingrate. I knew you would burn the bridge after crossing it. The divine bird scolded angrily. Yi Qinghan couldn't be bothered to argue with it. It was simply degrading his status. He took the 7 strange treasures and ran over to Blue Demon. I'll have to trouble you to bring them to the appraiser. If they can be auctioned, sell them for me regardless of the price. Thank you for helping me. Please wait for a moment. We will have an answer soon. When the time comes, I will inform you of the starting price. Lan Yao smiled. Yi Qinghan nodded and thanked her. You are too polite. If you don't mind, please allow me to treat you to a meal. I might have something that you need, Blue Demon said frankly. Everyone stared coldly at Yi Qinghan. It was as if Blue Demon would not have invited them if Yi Qinghan was not around. Yi Qinghan was taken aback. He did not understand what Blue Demon meant, but he still nodded in agreement. Everyone was envious, jealous, and hateful. More and more people were dissatisfied with Yi Qinghan. Go Chao saw this and was amused. His killing intent grew stronger. Yi Qinghan didn't care about other people's attitude. There were no eternal enemies in this world, and no eternal friends. He didn't care what these strangers thought. When he returned to his seat, Yi Qinghan leaned back against his chair. Through the corner of his eye, he saw that Dao Kong had been scared out of his wits before he woke up because of the shock. Right then, his face was filled with fear and stark pale. He did not know how to communicate with Yi Qinghan at all. "Sir, I truly know my wrongs. Please forgive me this time. I will definitely teach my unfilial descendants a lesson," Dao Kong said in a pleading tone. Yi Qinghan laughed coldly and said coldly, "Since you dared to allow your descendants to bully others, you should have thought that this day would come. This kind of ending is still considered merciful. Otherwise, I would have slaughtered your entire clan." Dao Kong is really arrogant. "Aren't you afraid that senior brother Dao Shen will come back and cause trouble for you?" Zi Ling reminded him telepathically. "I'm really afraid that he won't come back. I won't be able to find a suitable person to settle this debt with." Yi Qinghan laughed coldly and replied coldly. Zi Ling blushed with shame. Only then did she realize that Yi Qinghan was a chief god, and an extremely powerful one at that. She was actually worried about him. The one who should be worried was Dao Shen. It would be strange if he did not end up being crippled by Yi Qinghan when he returned. While the discussion continued, Lan Yao was still auctioning off the items. She had limited funds, so Yi Qinghan was much more well-behaved. However, the divine bird was unwilling to do so. Occasionally, it would stretch out its short legs and spread its wings to put on an arrogant and lazy expression. It continuously called out bids that were close to the true price, forcing the crowd to raise the price. However, it did not dare to deviate too much from the true price, as it was afraid that the items would rot in its hands. Lan Yao smiled but did not say anything. It realized that this divine bird was truly a divine bird. It knew the true price of treasures better than it did. Its repeated provocations had allowed it to earn a few more divine crystals. However, the other chief gods hated this pair of master and servant. They knew that Yi Qinghan did not have many divine crystals left, which was why they called out bids carefully. If they did not really need these treasures, they would have really wanted to scam Yi Qinghan. There were not just one or two people who had such thoughts. There were more than 10 or even dozens of them. Finally, someone took action. Heavenly Demon Violent Bear and Go Chao began to contact all the chief gods, except for the sage sect. "This Yi Qinghan is too arrogant, and he's also a junior from the outside. He doesn't even know how to respect us elders. If we don't teach him a lesson today, it'll be a loss to our dignity," Go Chao said fiercely. "How do you plan to teach him a lesson, Brother Go? This person's strength is not bad. Just based on yesterday's momentum, it's enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with us. We can't possibly gang up on a junior, right?" An elder chief god asked indifferently. "Naturally, there's no need for us to gang up on him. This person and that lowly bird don't even want to buy things, yet they keep raising the price. However, I'm sure he doesn't have many divine crystals left. He's already started to sell things. Later, we'll purposely raise the price as much as we can to tempt him into bidding. As long as he makes a move and reaches a certain price, we'll collectively give up and scam him until he goes bankrupt. It'll be best if he can't afford to buy the treasures. At that time, the revered Heaven Auction House will naturally take care of him. We'll just watch the show," Go Chao said viciously. "Good idea. Ha ha ha, Brother Go, you're the quick-witted one," Violent Bear said through voice transmission with a grin. There's also Glory Sect. Didn't that old monster from the primitive Taoist god just say that this method won't work? The powerhouse who claimed to be from the Pan clan shook his head. Glory Sect is just an organization. Once the dust settles, we'll collectively give him a warning. Do you think he'll dare to oppose us for Yi Qinghan alone? Moreover, he's already notified us yesterday that he has something to ask of us after the auction. There's no way he'll offend us, Violent Bear sneered. Yi Qinghan still had no idea that this group of people was trying to scam him. He was currently waiting for the auction house to set the price. Soon, a young half-step lord walked over with a record slip and handed it to him. Yi Qinghan looked at the name and starting price of the items he was selling on the record slip. His eyes turned green as he stared at the divine bird, causing it to shiver. Do you know their value and use? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. The divine bird noticed that something was amiss. It hurriedly shook its head and explained, I'm not a real god. I only know that they're relatively valuable. They're treasures. I don't know what they're used for. Yi Qinghan looked at the record slip and discovered that the lowest starting price of the 7 treasures was 1,000 supreme-grade divine crystals. 3 of them were priced at more than 10,000 supreme-grade divine crystals. 2 of them were priced at 100,000 supreme-grade divine crystals. One of the pearls actually contained the talisman scroll. The starting price of the talisman scroll was ridiculously high. It was directly priced using Chaos Divine Sources. The starting price was 100 supreme-grade Chaos Divine Sources. If no one bid, the revered Heaven Auction House would take it in at 5 times the price. Chapter 9:12. The Talisman Legacy was the specialty of the Talisman Grandmaster in the Chaotic Era. A simple piece of talisman paper that was casually carved with specific runes could unleash an attack that was comparable to a lord's. Moreover, it was a lord like the Chaos Giant God, unlike the half-baked lords of today. With a large number of lord-level talismans, godheads were not important at all. With a talisman in hand, it was equivalent to owning a sect. The Talisman Grandmaster had been lost for a long time. Buying the Talisman Legacy was not just buying a secret technique, but buying a powerful chaotic era sect. Therefore, the Talisman Legacy was not something that could be measured by price. Was it really a good idea to auction off such a good secret technique? Yi Qinghan hesitated, but he had already taken it out. Was it really a good idea to ask for it back? The divine bird stared at the treasures carefully, seriously wondering if its brain had been squeezed by a door. How could it have sold the Talisman Legacy secret technique? This divine bird is so regretful. I can't believe I didn't recognize that it was the Talisman Legacy. Otherwise, I could have founded a large sect. The divine bird wanted nothing more than to beat its chest and stamp its feet in despair. The people at the revered Heaven Auction House did not care how regretful Yi Qinghan was. The Talisman Legacy secret technique was already in the auction house's hands, so there was no way they would take it out again. If it were any other true treasure, they would at most choose to advertise it and sell it to others. However, the revered Heaven Auction House wanted to keep it for themselves this time, even if it meant paying a few more supreme-grade Chaos God sources. The auction continued. True treasures continued to appear, causing waves of excitement. Some of the true treasures below half-step lord level caused the mid-level clans and sects to enter a frenzied bidding war. Some of them were even red-eyed. Of the 7 treasures that Yi Qinghan had taken out, 4 had already been sold. The total value was over 500,000 supreme-grade god crystals. There were still 3 of the best treasures left. Aside from the Talisman Legacy secret technique, the remaining 2 could probably be sold for 500,000 as well. However, the auction house was very generous. In order to keep the Talisman Legacy secret technique, they gave up their commission and gave all the god crystals to Yi Qinghan. Sure enough, The remaining 2 true treasures were sold for 55 god crystals and given to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan accepted the god crystals and began bidding arrogantly again. However, he always stopped bidding before the other party could. This angered the many lords, wanting to teach Yi Qinghan a lesson. And a frenzied bidding war was brewing. A frenzied bidding war. Yi Qinghan. The Talisman Legacy Secret. It was not too expensive, but he was worried that the auction goddesses would. He was worried the price of. When Ziling learned that the highest price in Yi Qinghan's heart was 2 million supreme-grade god crystals, her heart twitched. She even trembled when she called out the price. In the end, Yi Qinghan won it for 3 million supreme-grade divine crystals, saving him 700,000 to 800,000 supreme-grade divine crystals. The Heavenly Dipper Space's gift was worth it. The Talisman Legacy secret technique could defend against the powerful attacks of ordinary lord. Yi Qinghan did not buy it to wear, but to study it. His target was the serpent python. With the serpent python's corpse, he could create many Talisman Legacy secret technique. Moreover, they would be of very high quality and priceless. These god crystals were nothing to him. Soon, the Talisman Legacy secret technique was brought out by the revered Sky Auction House. Blue Yao's expression changed slightly when he saw the starting price. He did not expect the auction house to set the starting price at 300 god Talisman Legacy secret technique. It seemed like they were determined to get the Talisman Legacy secret technique. Under normal circumstances, no one would carry so many god Talisman Legacy secret technique around. Next is a secret technique. The complete Talisman Legacy secret technique. It was the Talisman Grandmaster's secret technique. After the Talisman Grandmaster disappeared in the chaotic era, the Talisman Legacy secret technique disappeared as well. Now, someone has asked us to sell it. The starting price is 300 god Talisman Legacy secret technique. If no one bids, the Talisman Legacy secret technique will be purchased by us for 500 god Talisman Legacy secret technique. Blue Yao said in a low voice. What? Talisman Legacy secret technique? Why didn't you inform us? That's right. Aren't they trying to act shamelessly? Having the Talisman Legacy secret technique is equivalent to having a massive primal chaos sect. But they did not mention a single word about auctioning the Talisman Legacy secret technique. They are clearly trying to monopolize the treasure. I represent the Pan clan and will absolutely not allow such a thing to happen. How can the dignified revered Sky Auction House do such a despicable thing? Nearly 100 sovereigns fell silent. But Violent Bear and some other Chaos Giant gods were enraged. They wanted to buy the Talisman Legacy secret technique, and they could afford it. Which powerful sect or family clan with a legacy from the chaotic era could not afford a god Talisman Legacy secret technique? Not to mention Violent Bear, who represented the heavenly demon lineage. Ordinary sovereigns did not have the qualifications to participate in the bidding. They did not have any background, nor were their statuses prominent enough. Even sovereigns would have to give way when facing the Chaos Giant gods. Yi Qinghan was rather surprised. It was just the Talisman Legacy secret technique. Whether or not they could research the true essence of the Talisman Legacy secret technique was another matter altogether. Was there a need to be so crazy? They actually wanted to fight with the revered Sky Auction House directly. In the private room of Glory Sect, the eyes of the 4 people lit up. Primeval Taoist God was so excited that his fingertips were trembling as he tapped the table repeatedly. He said to the Great Elder, "Go back and ask the Senior Elder to mobilize all the resources of the sect and see if he can take out 500 pieces of God Talisman Legacy secret technique. This old man will also lend some to them. At most, we will share a portion of the profits with them. We cannot let the revered Sky Auction House reap the benefits for free." 5 or 6 Chaos Giant gods had suddenly appeared, and this did not include the people from Glory Sect and the auction house. In the past, there were only about 3,500 Chaos Giant gods. No matter how long the legacy had been passed down, it was impossible for the number of Chaos Giant gods to increase. Now that 5 or 6 Chaos Giant gods had appeared in this era, it was already considered a lot. They represented different families and powers, joining forces to force the revered Sky Auction House to delay the auction of the Talisman Legacy secret technique. The revered Sky Auction House would obviously not agree to delay the auction. That would only attract more large families and powers. At that time, how many Chaos Giant gods would they have to spend to buy the Talisman Legacy secret technique? At this time, the revered Sky Auction House's Chaos Giant god appeared once more. His aura was restrained and dignified. He swept his eyes over the crowd and said in a low voice, "This matter has nothing to do with my auction house. It was the client who asked us to auction it midway through the auction. Where would we have the time to publicize it? Which idiot asked you to auction it? Is he brainless? Or do you think we're idiots?" The heavenly demon Wild Bear asked angrily. Yi Qinghan staggered and almost fell to the ground. He had been called an idiot and yet he had no way to refute it. The key point was that he did not know that the Talisman Legacy was the Talisman Legacy. Otherwise, he would not have taken it out for auction midway through the auction. But overall, it seemed that this matter was indeed very stupid. The divine bird was enraged. It was also involved in this matter. It called itself the All-Beasts Divine Emperor, the spirit-devouring god parrot, and the little expert of treasure hunting. Today, it had actually done such a stupid thing. If word of this were to spread, it would be shameful. "It's all your fault," the divine bird roared in a low voice. Yi Qinghan's expression changed slightly. He glared at the divine bird. He was innocent. He did not recognize these things at all, especially the Talisman Legacy that was hidden in the pearl. He did not know where the divine bird had found it, but he had never asked about it. If it wasn't for the fact that he needed it today, he would not have asked the divine bird for a treasure to sell. Chapter 9:13. Facing the divine bird's accusation, Yi Qinghan could only roll his eyes. "All right. This thing is still a collector's item with you. It's already not bad that you managed to sell it," Yi Qinghan helplessly consoled. "You owe me a powerful sect." The divine bird coldly snorted. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He was speechless. The revered Heaven Auction House's Chaos Giant god smiled bitterly. He didn't expect these people to be so knowledgeable. The only one who didn't was Yi Qinghan. The auction house has a clear conscience regarding this matter. The treasure was indeed obtained midway, and there was no time to publicize it. This old man swears on the name of his ancestors that there is not a single lie. If fellow Taoists are not satisfied, you can place your own bids. We all know each other well. As long as you can place a higher bid than the auction house and bring the Chaos Divine Source to the auction house within a month, the treasure will still be yours. If you don't have enough Chaos Divine Source after a month, the auction house will not argue with you. However, the original price of the talisman will belong to the auction house. The expert discussed. Only then did everyone's expressions become slightly better. However, if the auction house also placed a bid, just how high would the price of this thing be? Yi Qinghan murmured. He didn't want to sell it, but he couldn't say it out loud. If he didn't sell it, he would probably offend the auction house. Now that the auction house had taken a step back and allowed empty bids, the auction house would at least be able to guess whether or not a sect had enough Chaos Divine Source. Even if they did, they wouldn't be willing to take out the Chaos Divine Source. No one dared to take the risk of offending the auction house and not buy it even if the price was too high. How about this? Those who are interested in participating in the auction of the talisman, please write down the highest price in your heart. The highest bidder will get it and the rest will be eliminated. This is to avoid fighting and hurting everyone's harmony. How about it? The revered Heaven Auction House's chaos giant god pondered for a moment and proposed a secret auction to reduce conflict. That's a good idea. I agree. The heavenly demon Violent Bear immediately nodded in agreement. Yi Qinghan knew that he could not stop the auction of talisman charms from continuing. Hence, he lay back in his chair and watched the show unfold. In such a secret auction, the price was still in his favor. He only gave everyone a chance to bid once. Everyone would reveal their bottom line. The price would definitely be more than 500 supreme-grade Chaos Divine Root. Soon, those who wanted to participate in the bidding began to secretly think about the highest price they could afford. Some sects and forces also began to join forces to get the supreme treasure. There was dead silence in the hall as everyone stared at the various private rooms. However, they ignored the fact that there was also an old man in the hall who had begun to pick up a brush. However, there was a faintly discernible aura emanating from his body that caused people's vision to blur, making it impossible to see his numbers. Yi Qinghan was rather surprised because the energy contained within the elder's body was actually so restrained. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have noticed it at all. He was an old man who kept a very low profile. It seemed that this person's cultivation was definitely at the level of a giant god of chaos. His true combat strength was very likely to be one of the strongest. Yi Qinghan secretly muttered to himself. His gaze never left the old man. After about an incense stick's worth of time, the giant god of the auction house walked out from the backstage. He held a piece of parchment in his hand and looked at the crowd. I have always been fair. Once all the parchments have been collected, I will not look at their numbers. The first thing I will announce is the auction house's price. After that, I will announce everyone's numbers. If the auction house is eliminated, we will no longer covet the talisman inheritance. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A golden light shot out from each of the private rooms. They were all parchments wrapped in divine power, making it impossible to see their numbers. Lan Yao stretched out his hand and took the parchments. There were a total of 8 parchments, which meant that at least 8 great forces were participating in the bidding. The old man in the hall stood up and trembled slightly. He was already past his prime. He handed the parchment to Lan Yao. The moment he turned around, everyone felt their noses tingle. It was as if they had seen the evolution of time. It was incomparably ancient. Yi Qinghan looked at the old man's wrinkled face. It was like the bark of a tree, and his heart trembled. Yi Qinghan could see the excitement and reverence in the old man's eyes. He really cared about this inheritance, and not its potential value. Could this person be a descendant of the Talisman Grandmaster? Yi Qinghan secretly muttered to himself. At this moment, the giant god of the auction house opened the parchment and said in a deep voice, "The auction house's price is 835 pieces of supreme-grade Chaos Divine Source." Wow! The auction house is indeed generous. 800 pieces of supreme-grade Chaos Divine Source. How many years would it take to accumulate this much? Everyone exclaimed. Yi Qinghan's heart was also twitching. After so many years, he had only seen 2 supreme-grade Chaos Divine Sources and 2 ordinary Divine Sources. The auction house could actually take out so many Chaos Divine Sources. One could only imagine how rich the auction house was. In the Sage Sect's private room, Primeval Tao God looked at the auction house's giant god and saw the numbers clearly. He couldn't help but sigh dispiritedly. Sigh. Many people sighed at the same time, knowing that they didn't have a chance this time. However, Yi Qinghan noticed a faint smile on the old man's face. He knew that the price of 835 pieces was definitely not going to win. The heavenly demon lineage's price is 795 pieces. The Pan lineage's price is 803 pieces. The immortal vanquishing hall's price is 810 pieces. The primitive sage sex price is 600 pieces. Lan Yao announced one by one. Up till now, the auction house was still the highest. However, Lan Yao's expression changed at the next moment. This was because she saw a set of numbers. Venerable Fu Long's price is 890 pieces. Boom! The auction house was in an uproar. The auction house had been eliminated by a very unfamiliar name. The giant god of the auction house had a slight change in expression. He looked at the old man in the main room with a grave expression. The highest price is Venerable Fu Long's. Lan Yao waved her hand and froze the parchment in midair, allowing everyone to see it clearly. This meant that it wasn't fake. The old man trembled slightly and was extremely emotional. 2 streams of turbid tears flowed from his sunken eyes as he said hoarsely, "This old man is the successor of the Talisman Grandmaster. Even though the Talisman Grandmaster only exists in name, it still exists. The Talisman Grandmaster's supreme treasure has disappeared for countless eras. Now that it has reappeared, this old man has finally fulfilled the wishes of our ancestors. Thank you for your help." Yi Qinghan didn't feel that it was a pity to return the item to its rightful owner. This kind of inheritance should be in the hands of the successor and not be used to scheme for benefits. Fellow Taoist, the Talisman Grandmaster has disappeared for so many years. I suppose you don't have an address anymore, right? If you trust my auction house, why don't you work with us? We are willing to support your sect's reconstruction and achieve the glory of the Chaos Talisman Grandmaster. What do you think? The giant god of the auction house suggested immediately. The orthodoxy is still around. Otherwise, how could this old man take out so many divine chaos sources? However, I still have to thank the auction house for allowing my sect's supreme treasure to return. If you don't mind, this old man is naturally willing to work with the auction house. I hope that this inheritance won't be broken. The old man nodded his head solemnly. He knew what the auction house wanted. Of course, they wanted the completed talisman amulet. Moreover, they wanted a lot of them. However, the early stages of the Talisman Grandmaster were very weak and their physical bodies weren't strong enough. They needed the support of a powerful force. Ha ha ha, well said. My auction house is willing to provide the divine chaos sources, the protection of experts, and a portion of our territory to your sect. The giant god of the auction house made a generous promise. This was a win-win cooperation. That's easy. Let's talk about it later. The old man nodded his head immediately. Since the people of the Talisman Grandmaster had come out, the others didn't have any reason to fight for it. Hence, they all fell silent. A day passed just like that. The auction was far from over. There were at least 10 more supreme treasures that had yet to be auctioned. Everyone shook their heads and left to wait for the next day's auction. Lan Yao kept looking at Yi Qinghan and smiled as a greeting. Yi Qinghan nodded his head and walked towards Lan Yao. Both of them had their own thoughts. Chapter 9:14. The auction house's giant god also walked over and handed the primal chaos divine source to Yi Qinghan in advance. This could be considered as buying out the talisman scroll in advance. 890 divine sources. Yi Qinghan put them away. He felt that the yin-yang ring was quite heavy, and he didn't dare to reveal anything. If others knew that he had so many divine sources on him, those old geezers would definitely skin him alive. Fellow Taoist, shall we find an inn for a chat? Lan Yao went straight to the point. Yi Qinghan nodded. He also wanted to know what Lan Yao wanted to talk about. He also wanted to know what the supreme treasure was and whether or not it was for sale. The two of them were silent as they went straight to Yi Qinghan's inn. Yi Qinghan found that many people were staring at him. He couldn't help but shrug helplessly. He realized that he was really a troublemaker. No matter where he went, there was no peace. Wherever he went, something big would happen. Where did you come from, fellow Taoist? Lan Yao broke the silence. The mythical plane. Have you heard of it? Or the endless plane? I also want to know its approximate location, Yi Qinghan asked. Lan Yao thought for a moment and shook her head. It should be a small area. My auction house rarely touches it. Now that the primal chaos has returned to one, it's difficult to find. The Chaos Star map can't pinpoint its location because the name of the location has been changed. It's very difficult to match it with the Chaos Star map. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. The road back home was extremely difficult. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The two of them walked into the inn, ordered some spirit tea and spirit fruits, and then went upstairs. Among the sovereigns, there was no such thing as a man and a woman alone. There were some who liked to enjoy themselves. They liked this kind of stimulation, and they even took the initiative to invite powerhouses of the same level to enjoy the physical pleasure. After all, the paramount gods were far beyond their reach. Only by enjoying themselves could they find meaning in life. As soon as they entered the room, Lan Yao relaxed. She seemed to be in control of the situation. Perhaps this was the adaptability of an auctioneer. Yi Qinghan pulled over a chair and sat down. Lan Yao casually sat across from him. Thank you, fellow Taoist, for allowing me to earn more commission, Lan Yao teased with a smile. Ha ha! Fellow Taoist, you're too courteous. Given your wealth, I'm afraid it's much more terrifying than mine. Yi Qinghan laughed heartily. The Lord God could be very humorous at times, but he was not good at wasting time. He asked, May I know why you are looking for me this time? You said you have something I need? I want to know what it is. Blue Demon poured himself a cup of tea, took a sip, and said firmly, I saw your performance last night. I heard from fellow Taoist Su Li that you're known as the god of slaughter in the Dragonline Plain. You've killed countless people. I want to ask you to kill someone and slaughter his entire family. As for the price, as long as you say it and I have it, it's not a problem. Murder? If I want to offend a great beauty like you, there's no need for me to do anything, right? As long as you wave your hand, there will be many people willing to do it. Yi Qinghan held his teacup and swirled the spirit tea in his hand. He looked at Lan Yao with surprise. Of course, but I don't want others to get involved because the nearby large regions know each other very well. I don't want to plant a seed of disaster. You came from a foreign region and even dared to offend the god of slaughter path. I'm sure your assassination and concealment techniques are not ordinary. As long as you don't alarm the dragon bloodline, the success rate will be very high. That's why I chose you to do it, Lan Yao said calmly. All right then. Location, sect name, and who is the Lord God you want to kill? Yi Qinghan replied calmly. The Python Demon Bloodline's clan leader Lin Yao. He's in the Sky Demon region, where the Sky Demon Violent Bear is. He killed my bloodline back then and plundered my clan's transformed female cultivators. He raped and enjoyed himself. I was lucky to escape, but the Python Demon Bloodline submitted to the Dragon Bloodline. Even the revered Heaven Auction House couldn't help me take revenge. It's been delayed until now. You're not human? Are you a demon? Yi Qinghan looked at Lan Yao in surprise. No wonder this person's name was so strange. That's right. I'm from the Blue Fox bloodline and belong to the Fox clan. It's a pity that the Fox clan is weak. Even though they know that the Python Demon bloodline killed my Blue Fox bloodline, they don't dare to say anything. Lan Yao looked at Yi Qinghan calmly and frowned. My friend, are you looking down on us demons who have transformed? No. No wonder the shapeless charm you exude is so deadly. It's because of your brow bone. Yi Qinghan quickly shook his head and explained. When are you going to do it? What's the price? Lan Yao asked. I don't have time recently. I've obtained the pure sunlight element and need to refine it. It will probably take 1 or 2 years. As for the price, I need information, of course. One of the things I need, Yi Qinghan replied honestly. Time is not a problem. I've waited for thousands of years, let alone 2 years. As for the information, I'll tell you everything I know, Lan Yao replied quickly. I want to know what the final item of this auction is. Also, when I entered the city the day before yesterday, I felt a very special energy that made me have an epiphany. Unfortunately, I was interrupted before I could have the chance to have an epiphany. I want to know what this thing is. Is it an auction item? Yi Qinghan asked in a low voice. Epiphany. The epiphany of a king god was something that could only be found by chance. Lan Yao naturally understood what it meant. Are you talking about the Chaos Enlightenment elixir? It just arrived in the sacred city the day before yesterday. You might have felt it when it was being appraised. This is not a secret. The king gods of the major forces have been informed, Lan Yao replied. Yi Qinghan exhaled. It seemed that this item was indeed an auction item. Alright, I got it. As for the price of killing the Python Demon Clan, you can decide for yourself. I'm not a greedy person, but I'm not a greedy person either. If I accept your reward, I'll naturally help you kill the Python Demon Clan. I can't kill them all. After all, those low-level Python demons have yet to transform. It's difficult to kill them all, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Lan Yao stared at Yi Qinghan. He didn't know what Yi Qinghan wanted. He had originally hoped that Yi Qinghan would state the price himself, but he didn't expect Yi Qinghan to throw the question back at him. There were only 2 people in the room. The 2 of them looked at each other, and the atmosphere was very awkward. Didn't you say that you have something I need? I'm only interested in things that interest me. I'm not interested in mundane things like divine crystals. I don't lack them either, Yi Qinghan reminded him. I can smell the 5 elements in your body. There are also some fluctuations of the Great Path's mysteries, such as time and space. You want to forge the 9-revolution chaotic Tao body, right? Lan Yao asked curiously. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. He fell backward, then did a backflip to stabilize himself. He looked at Lan Yao in shock and whispered, Are you a blue fox in human form? Not a dog demon in human form? How can you smell that? You are the dog demon in human form. Why are you talking to such a beautiful woman? How can you be so rude? Lan Yao pretended to be angry. Yi Qinghan was embarrassed. He had never heard of a demon or human being able to smell the 5 elements and the Great Path's origin. If this wasn't the nose of a dog, then what was it? This is the talent of the Blue Fox clan. We are born with the ability to smell the Great Path's origin and the 5 elements. We are more sensitive to such things. That's why I was observing you the first time I saw you, Lan Yao explained. Yi Qinghan was surprised. This was a good skill. If he could learn it, it would be easy for him to find the other boundary tablets of the Great Path's laws. That's why I said that I have something you need. I can help you find 1 or 2 boundary tablets that you are missing. However, it will take a long time, Lan Yao said. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.